Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. It is your um, friendly neighborhood Westford here hanging out. Today, potentially, we'll be talking with a gentleman named Agnostic Till Now. That's his name. From my understanding, he is a former agnostic and he recently converted to a non denominational disciple of Christ, is how he self identifies. So if he shows up, we will have a conversation with him. I'm still waiting on him. He hasn't replied. Uh, Yesterday, we scheduled this and got the time solidified, but as of yet, he is unresponsive. So if he shows up anytime, then we can go ahead and have the conversation. But if not, we can reschedule. And today we can just do an open panel, just like Jiub is saying. That's fine with me. I'm here to hang out. We can talk more about whatever you guys want to talk about. We can. I didn't know. I nowhere near exhausted the sophistry of the liturgists yesterday. Kind of cut off the stream a little bit early. Had to leave and had the time get away from me. Had to help my wife carry some big heavy things because I'm a man, doggone it. So if y'all want to join in and just be present with me, hey, if you want to do life with me for a minute, y'all, here's the link. Just join in and gosh darn it, let's do life together. Why does everything got to be so serious? Can't we just go back to 5th grade when everybody could just make fun of each other and we could be extremely horrendously racist and it made everyone just feel good? Can we go back to that, please? That's the whole thesis of my channel is just let's go back to that time, that land known as 2005. Yes, this is the Westford Wasson show. I can't do an impression with him without being horribly foul mouthed. So I can't really do a genuine impression of him. It's a problem there. Is the video for 240p? Am I being filmed through a potato for y'all right now? It says I have crappy internet. Well, on the screen right here, it says I have 1 bar, but down here on my computer, it says I have 3 out of 4. So I don't know who to listen to. But can y'all hear me all right? Hello, can you hear me? On my mixer board, it says I'm good. It's my mic. Is this? I keep forgetting to turn my headphones on. I just turned them off. Okay, there. The quality is literally a potato. Well, I don't know what I did differently. I'm like home alone. Nobody else is taking up my bandwidth. So I don't know why I'm a potato at the moment. Do I need to string okay, audio is good. Do I need to string an Ethernet cable out here? Does my laptop even have? It does. My laptop does not have an Ethernet port. I paid the bills. I don't know what you want from me, skeptic. Also, is that 5 supposed to be a T? Or are you skeptic? I don't think of 5s as T's typically. Well, y'all too scared to jump in? I left the link there. Come on. Y'all scared? The government's yeah, dude, I'm getting DDoS right now. Lower your bit rate. It may help. Do I do that on the StreamYard? Talk to me like I'm a 5. Okay, I'm going to settings. General. It says I'm at 720p. Says I'm at 720p. I can touch up my appearance. What does this do for you guys? Is this? I'm sorry. Sorry. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Is it? Oh. Oh wow. Gosh, this little nub is attacking the mic. You see that? Who actually uses that? Who uses that unironically? I'm not in a potato anymore. Well, glory to God. Glory to God. I didn't touch the bit rate. So that's here we are. What do y'all want to talk about? I'm still checking. It says that agnostic till now looked at he saw my message 3 minutes ago and he has not replied. I'm gonna go ahead and send him the link another time just to get it going. Potentially, if not, I mean, yeah, I mean, hey, I'll just join me in this thing we call life. You know, we're all God experiencing itself. There's no genders, no pronouns in God, but we can still use it. You know, we are God experiencing itself. That's what we learned yesterday. Can someone here tell me which apostolic father is the best to start with? I'll be right back. Imagine that there's some elevator music here. In the future, there will be, but just have to imagine it for now. This is where I started. The Apostolic Fathers. This guy right here just finished this volume out of like I don't know how many volumes there are, 30 of them or something. But then I got this from my church's library. So we got Saint Clement, Mathetis. I don't know how to pronounce that. Mathetes. Math Eddies. Polycarp, Ignatius. I like Ignatius because I think of Nacho Libre. Ignacio, Barnabas, Papias, Justin Martyr, Irenaeus. I mean, yeah, any of these guys, good place to start. Justin Martyr is great to start with. If you read Trypho, the dialogue with Trypho the Jew, a lot of really good defense of Christianity from the Old Testament. He gets into tons and tons of the theophanies, which is hilarious since listening to Trent Horn, it seems like it's dogmatic in Roman Catholicism that the Holy Trinity wasn't in the Old Testament, that Christ himself wasn't in the Old Testament, which is just like the Apostolic Fathers. And so far I've read, Justin Martyr and Irenaeus are pretty explicit that it's incarnate. It's the pre-incarnate Logos that appears many, many times as the angel of the Lord. So when Trent Horton says Abraham didn't know about the Trinity, he didn't know about the Logos, what is he talking about? The people in, the 80s, like the original 80s, 80 AD, up to 180 so far of what I'm reading, they say that Abraham knew Jesus, pre-incarnate Jesus, explicitly knew him. So I don't know if your church happens to have this set in the library, the Ante-Nicene Fathers. Some really good stuff in here. I want to show you guys one thing I found. If I can find it here real quick, folks, just give me a second. We're doing it live. You guys watch Baselit Analyzer? Oh, that guy's pretty funny. I love when he does his him particularly, I think has a good Alex Jones. It just gives me the warmth in my bosom for some reason. Got a PDF. Man. Oh, okay. Here it is. Maybe. Oh yeah, it's a couple pages from here. Ras, you don't tell me what to do. I'm getting to it. Don't worry. Okay, here we go. The Epistle of Saint Ignatius to the Virgin Mary and the Virgin Mary's response. This is Saint Ignatius writing to the Virgin Mary while she's still alive. Thou oughtest to have comforted and consoled me, who am a neophyte, so he's new in the faith, probably recently baptized, and a disciple of thy beloved John the theologian, the apostle. For I have heard things wonderful to tell respecting thy son Jesus, and I am astonished by such a report. But I desire with my whole heart to obtain information concerning things which I have heard from thee, who wast always intimate and allied with him, and who wast acquainted with all his secrets. I have also written to thee at another time, and have asked thee concerning the same things. Fare thou well, and let the neophytes who are with me be comforted of thee and by thee and in thee. Amen. So, Protestants, that's a guy talking to the Virgin Mary. And you guys talk to her like that? Just asking. Just asking. And this is the Virgin Mary's response. The Theotokos says, "The things which thou hast heard and learned from John concerning Jesus are true. Believe them, cling to them, and hold fast the profession of that Christianity which thou hast embraced, and conform thy habits in life to thy profession. Now I will come in company with John to visit thee, and those that are with thee. Stand fast in the faith, and show thyself a man. Nor let the fierceness of persecution move thee, but let thy spirit be strong and rejoice in God thy Savior. Amen." It's pretty cool. Yes, Saint Ignatius was the child that Jesus Christ himself held in the Gospels. And there we have one of his letters to the Theotokos. In the letter, he says that he wrote other letters, at least one, and we have a response of the written response of the Virgin. It's pretty cool. That was just sitting in the church library. We have like 2 bookshelves full of books, and I just pulled it off. Like, oh, this is going to take me probably my whole dang life to get through this set of giant books. Let's just get started. And I showed those letters to my priest, and he's like, "I've never read these." I'm like, they've been up here for I don't know how many years, just waiting. Saint John Chrysostom, is that what you're saying? Well, he's not an apostolic father. Apostolic father would be, the fathers who knew and walked with the apostles. And then you might be able to say the next generation as well. Like there's the apostles, then the people that they knew personally. And then you could say like the people that knew the people who knew them personally. That's kind of what people refer to when they say the apostolic fathers. And then before the Council of Nicaea, the first council, all of them are just considered like the ante-Nicene fathers. And then you have the Nicene fathers after the first council. I've read On the Incarnation, and I'm reading Sayings of the Desert Fathers. I haven't read Sayings of the Desert Fathers, but I have read On the Incarnation. You need to learn. Wait, you need to learn for a test. I thought you said you need to learn to read. Sorry. That's not what you said, but I think that's what I expected you to say. So that's how I read it, honestly. I'm not trying to be mean to you, Ras. I just, even if I was being mean to you, we're all one, bro. It's just God being mean to himself because he wants to know what it feels like to have that sensation of being, hard on yourself through another person. The internet's really crazy because it's just like the government, who is God, created this thing that we all jump onto, and it's just God talking to himself over and over through a million eyes. Man, I like to think about it like that. Well, agnostic till not has not replied. Jiub, are you hopping on? If not, I didn't really get too many tweets from Sir Gunger yesterday, and that's always depressing and hilarious simultaneously. I'm gonna drop the link in here again. If you guys want an open panel, that's fine with me. I can jibber jab as long as I need to. It's no problem for me. This isn't supposed to be a comedy stream. It could be. I have a couple bits that I've thought of that'd be really fun to just, imbibe, a premise, a character, and just roll with it for 2 hours and just see what happens. That's fun. I did that. I've only done one of those so far with the piety signaling, and that was a fun stream. I just want to have some more fun, y'all. I mean, I feel like since the world ended in 2020, that you guys hear that rooster? You guys hear him? He's actually lamenting because we had another rooster and his name was Claude. He was the dang coolest chicken you've ever met. He'd run across the yard when he saw you. He'd dance. He'd do a little dance around you. He'd dance circles around you. He'd want you to be picked. He wanted to be picked up. He just like let you hold him. And he's the coolest little dude. He would just like walk around with you. All the other chickens are like either give me food or they'll just avoid you. This dude would just hang out with you, walk around the yard with you, he'd help you with your chores, your yard work. And he just died a couple days ago. A hawk got him. So pour one out. Pour one out for Claude here. I got to pour it that way. So I don't. There we go. That's for you, Claude. You will be missed. Gosh dang it! I'm so sad that chicken died. He was my favorite chicken. Never been friends with a chicken before, and that's God took him from me. Well, actually, a hawk took him from me. Did I read the Cappadocians? Can you name a couple of them? I don't think I have. I'm kind of starting at the beginning and working back, but I've also read a bunch of just scattered things throughout the last several years. Who are some St. Basil? I have only read, select quotes here and there. I haven't actually read any of his works. Oh, hey, Jiub, you're on here. Are you? You're muted. Oh, it says wait. You're muted. So just let me know. I haven't sat down and read any of their works yet. No, so I don't. And St. Basil, St. Gregory Nazianzen. Who is St. Basil? His brother is it Gregory Nazianzen? And I know their mom is Saint Amelia. She had like 8 kids, and like 3 of them were saints. No, I'm deficient in that. I have many deficiencies in my reading. My reading list is a dang mile long. Gregory of Nyssa, yeah. Yeah, no, I have not dived into them. I will, though. I will. This year, now that Lent is done, I'm going to be doing more reading outside of just Lives of the Saints and spiritual books. Would like to read all of Shakespeare and a lot of like epic poems. I haven't read the Iliad or the Odyssey. I haven't read Divine Comedy. I've read Faust. That's like the only one really in that genre I've gotten to, but I have like 7 different of those epic poems that people have retold or referenced in last several hundred years. So I feel like that'd be good of me to read. You read Dune in 2 weeks? Yes, it's good. I've read the first book twice, and I've read all 8 books once so far. They are quite good. Quite good. Very good. But they are horrifying in their worldview. They are very. A second, my headphones are dying. Very degen, but it's basically just if Nietzsche, his mind became a sci-fi series. Jiub, are you you're here? Oh, it says you're on. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Testing. Yep. I can hear you.
Yeah, Herbert was
Testing.
super. He actually lived like within an hour from where I live right now. He lived in a town called Port Townsend, Washington, I believe.
Testing.
Weird dude. One thing
Can you hear me?
I remember hearing him say in an interview, Frank Herbert, that I thought was really cool, was that he would only ever take a job, like an employment to earn money, if it was something that he would use in his writing. Like, I want to, write a character about such and such thing, or a character that has such and such expertise. I want to get that job so then I can get in that character's head. That's something that I remember him saying. Jiub, are you
Hello?
there? Hello.
Can you hear me?
Not hear you. Hello? It's my Oh, it's because my headphones died. Are you there? Is everybody else hearing you?
Hello?
Hey, how are you doing?
Good, bro. It's good to finally talk to you.
Yeah, you too. Do you hop on to? I've never seen you on anything. I've seen you comments in the chats before.
Yeah, I've never gone on any live streams. I've
Oh,
called
so this
into
is
like
your
Jay's
debut.
show once in a while, but no no live streams really.
How'd you get into the? You just like start doing clips one day?
Yeah, I started doing timestamps on Jay's open debates because I got sick of trying to scrub through, um, 3 hours trying to find what I wanted,
Yep.
and then I'm like, "Okay, I'm just gonna do everything. I'm gonna timestamp everything." And so I really started doing it for myself, and then a bunch of people liked it, so I feel like I'm obligated to keep doing it now.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
You know?
it is useful because there's so many times I'm like, wait, okay, what's that argument that Jay made? It has like specific, Bible verses. I can remember the argument, but I can't remember the reference. And then you try to, I'm like, I don't even know which video it is. There's like 10 videos of that same topic. I might have to watch 15 hours of stuff I have already watched just to find that one thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, so that's how I started doing, timestamps, and then I'm like, "You know what? I need to, like, upload this segment, this clip right here. This is so good." And then, so that's how I started doing the clips. It's all because of the timestamps.
That's awesome. I know there's a like Slow Boy Whiteboard does that. I know Kyle does something similar. He does the Dyer clips, but you're not specifically Dyer. You upload other things too, right?
Yeah, I do Andrew Wilson and, Zen Shapiro, and, I did Chase Haggard recently because he has some really great spicy interactions, especially with
Yeah, he does.
atheists,
He's very
and,
sassy.
oh, yeah, yeah, everyone loves sassy, right? So I try to get the sassy, spicy clips.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then I think I did, um, one of I'm trying to remember everyone, but definitely, Jim Bob, got a few good Jim Bob clips on his determinism arguments.
Yeah, he has a lot of really
So
good internal critiques. I mean, like with watching Jay for years now, he's really good at the presup, and you start to think like, wow, that's such a nuclear argument. Like I never really hear anybody really defend against it, really attack it. But Jim Bob and Andrew have both been doing really good at just granting stuff and then still showing internal incoherency, which isn't typically like Jay's style. He usually stays on the presup level, which I mean still is a great tactic, but it's really fun to see a different style of argumentation I don't hear as much.
yeah, I agree. I like how Andrew and Jim Bob, defeat the secular worldview using their own worldview, granting their own sort of presuppositions and then showing how they contradict or how it leads to absurdity. And
Mhm.
I think that's a pretty good way to go, especially with someone that doesn't have any sort of like blessing to teach theology or to
Right,
be an apologist, is to uh, sort of, okay, I'm just going to argue within the secular framework. And
right.
so that's something that I want to get better at too, is doing what Jim Bob or Andrew is doing. Because I mean, first of all, the nuclear level precept that Jay does, it's really hard. It's really
Mm,
hard. It requires a lot of background knowledge, a lot of study, because not only do you have to be familiar with philosophy, you have to be familiar with the theology and even history and the nuances of orthodoxy to be able to pull that off. So that's why, like, tag. I think tag is so hard to pull off because it requires multiple spheres of fluency, being familiar with, right?
mm.
Yeah, so
What
I
would
have a
you
lot of
say?
respect for Jim Bob and Andrew for doing that without getting into theology.
Right. I mean, that's one. I remember when the Matt Dillahunty and Andrew Wilson the debate happened on modern day debates. That there was people in the comments being like, "Andrew lost. Oh my gosh!" And I was like, he doesn't have a blessing to do like defend apologetically with theology because he's not even baptized yet. So before this debate happened, it was agreed upon that the boundaries, the rules of engagement were that they were going to discuss this and that he was not going to give an apologetics. And they're like, so he's not even willing to defend his worldview. That means he lost before he even got on the stage. I'm like, what? Like we play a game and we decided what the rules are, and I just because I play by the rules, then I lose. What does that? That doesn't make any sense. There's lots
I
of cope
know,
lot of
it
cope
was
with that.
beautiful.
Yes.
It's just okay on your own
What would you
grounds, you know?
say
Yeah.
what would you say is the best argument against tag or, yeah, tag that you've seen? Have you seen any?
Um, I think that I haven't seen any. I can't think off the cuff like the best argument against it, but I've seen a few atheists that are more sophisticated that are or they're agnostics
Mhm.
that go into precept, like they're familiar enough with presuppositions and tag to try to they'll attack like the disjunction of tag, like how exactly is it that um, that if you prove uh, me wrong that you're right. Like I've seen an interaction
Mhm.
between an atheist and tag being argued where that's not an easy answer to or there's that's not an easy question to answer um, because the orthodox presenting tag has to also present a positive argument. So
Right.
basically, what the atheist is trying to do is that look, okay, you've negated my position, but how does it follow necessarily that your position is right? And this is a very tricky kind of sleight of hand because it assumes that the orthodox tag presenter has not given a positive account, which that's why Jay, for example, or Jace, or anybody that argues tag effectually, they always give a positive account during the middle of their argument because the um, the the atheist is right. Just because you prove someone wrong, it doesn't follow necessarily that you're right. But if you present a positive account during your argumentation, during your apologetic, yes, um, that is you are in a better position now, right? Because there's force behind what to accept once you negate your opponent's position. So I think that attacking the disjunct has been the most challenge I've seen Tag face, but it's not a defeater.
Right.
It's just
It
that it's
just
so
means
tricky.
that you as the person giving the argument have to deal with that objection. It doesn't mean that it's a defeater.
Right, right.
Like I with that Chase debate versus something the black lady, I don't remember her name.
Beat the Colt,
Beat
Nikki.
the Colt. Yeah. Like her she kept harping on that how do you know that God is the precondition for knowledge? And that's I think one of the best questions I because that's not a defeater either, but it's still people would say it's an argument for ignorance that oh it could be something else and we're just ignorant of what that thing is and you call it God because you don't know what else to call the precondition of knowledge, which I've
Hmm.
called into Jay's show and asked him, you know, how would you deal with this? And it's basically what you'd expect. You've probably heard him say it a dozen times that, well, you know, there's not really that many different places, different starting points. You know, either the universe and everything is teleological or dysteleological, or maybe you could say there's some kind of third way that's part like dysteleological and teleological. But you know, that's like three different options. There's not billions of options. So once we start defeating those, then and showing the incoherency of certain options, then that limits it down to only a few possibilities.
That's right. There's only a certain number of positions that you can take in your metaphysic, epistemology, and ethic. And how you choose your metaphysic, epistemology, ethic will entail uh, how uh, how the rest of your worldview unfolds. So there's like a price to pay on whatever you choose. So Jay usually boils it down to monism, dualism, or some sort of
Mhm.
chaos. Those are the kind of your three main metaphysics. And then, by the way, you brought up the whole Chase debate with Nikki. That
Yeah.
was a perfect example of giving a positive account while negating the opponent. So for example, during Chase's introduction, he gave a positive account on. He went briefly into the Orthodox metaphysic, epistemology, and ethic. He briefly did it during his opening statement, and that was really important because during the debate he kept referencing back to that he did give a positive account. So Nikki was trying to do two things. One, she was asking, how do you know premise one of tag? How do you know that God is a necessary precondition for knowledge,
Right.
right? Um, Now, Chase didn't necessarily go explicitly into the disjunction, which is the second move you make formally. But he
Can
did,
you go ahead and do that just for anybody that's watching the first move and then the second move you're
yeah,
talking about?
right. So premise one, or the argument in short form, is God is the necessary precondition for knowledge. We have knowledge, therefore God, right? X is the necessary condition for Y, therefore X, right? That is the first move. Okay, so Nikki was trying to say, how do you know premise one? X is the necessary condition for Y. And so the move that it boils down to formally is called a disjunctive syllogism. Or a disjunction in logic means either this or that, right? It's an
So it's
either
like the
or
law of
statement.
excluded middle. It can't be some I cannot be the biological father of my daughter and also not the biological father of my daughter. I have to be either one or the other. I can't be both at the same time. That kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah, there's different types of disjuncts. The way that tag goes is either autonomous epistemology or theonomous epistemology, where that translates to either God is, or let me rephrase it, either God is the necessary precondition for knowledge, or he is not the necessary precondition for knowledge. So in this disjunctive syllogism, it's set up as a true dichotomy. And then in the second premise of this disjunctive syllogism, you negate the not God is not the necessary precondition for knowledge. So not the necessary precondition for knowledge leaves you with God is the necessary precondition for knowledge. It's something like that. And so that is the formal next move. And even Father Deacon Ananias presents this in his paper. He writes it out in propositional logic, either P or not P, not P, therefore P. So now there are still objections to this, but that's we don't have to get into that. I can, but it gets kind of technical because the
Right.
atheists will usually say, "Oh, that's trivial. This is a trivial syllogism. It doesn't prove anything." Like Alex Malpass objects to
Which
this.
isn't necessarily
So
really arguing against it or wrestling with it. It's just a hand wave, is what it sounds like to me. Which I mean,
it
I
is.
think that one of the strongest arguments against tag that I've seen is just, well, like, I just don't believe. I just don't find it convincing. It's like, like kind of the Nietzsche will to power. I haven't read Heidegger, but apparently Heidegger argues this too. Like he says that epistemology is a failed project and that it's totally worthless, and we shouldn't try to justify anything we believe. Like if you try, then you're a fool. And
Mhm.
that's basically just saying like nothing you say will make me believe. I totally lack belief. I totally lack faith. And it's like, well, how do you argue against somebody who's just not going to engage? You can't really. Which I mean, it's not a positive argument again, but it's just somebody who's going to flip the chessboard and say like, deal with it. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. Whenever someone says, "I'm not convinced," like Monkey, or "I don't believe," all you got to say is, "Well, I'm not your therapist. Okay, I
Mm,
don't need to. I'm not here to psychologically convince you. I'm here to present an argument to show the logical force of of what's entailed." And by the way, um, so in that Chase debate, um, Chase didn't even need to go into the disjunctive syllogism because Nikki couldn't critique how tag was unsound. Remember,
mhm.
she kept saying, "Well, your argument of short form tag is valid, but it's not sound."
Yeah, but
Chase was like,
she
"Okay,
didn't say why. That's like he then Chase kept saying that it's not sound is not demonstrating that it's not sound.
yes, exactly." So he didn't even need to go into it because she couldn't demonstrate how it was unsound. So just the recap for the audience. When someone says something is valid but not sound, what they're really saying is, okay, the structure of the argument is valid. That's right, but it's not true. So what they're really saying is that if something's unsound, it's committing an informal fallacy. So whenever an atheist attacks tag and he's like, okay, that's valid, but that's not sound, what you need to do is you need to force them to identify the informal fallacy that's being committed,
Right.
right? So just saying it's not sound, okay, well, you need to do more. You can't just make the claim it's unsound. Tell me why
Would
it's
you say that's
unsound.
just incredulity to make the claim that it's not sound or not logical or unconvincing, but without demonstrating it? Is that would that be
It,
incredulity, or would that be
it's just an
another term?
assertion.
Just
I
yeah,
mean,
it's an unjustified claim of us
yeah,
making unjustified claims.
yeah, yeah. What they're really saying, if they have any knowledge, like there was this guy named Danny Phil Talk. He's some atheist philosopher kid.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He seems like a
Um,
nice guy, but are you talking
right.
about him on the Jim Bob stream like 2 weeks ago or whenever it was?
He was there, but he also interacted with Jay,
Okay, I
and
haven't seen that.
he pulled this exact same move by saying, I get it, Jay. Tag is valid, but it's not sound. It's actually committing a begging the question fallacy. Okay, so and Jay made him. He forced him to identify what informal fallacy was being committed,
Mm.
which was uh, he was accused of committing the begging the question fallacy, where something is viciously circular or the conclusion is baked into the premise, but that's not the way tag is set up.
Yeah, I was gonna say where in the the first move of tag is the begging the question, because that means like the premise is in the conclusion,
Yeah,
right? And
right.
I don't think that's in the formal argument.
No, if they were to attack tag, they would have to surrender uh, the modus ponens inference form. So modus ponens is a very famous inference form um, of if P then Q, uh, P therefore Q.
Right.
Okay, so that if you actually write out tag in propositional logic, it translates to modus ponens. If uh, X, then Y, or let me think about this on the fly here. Um, it's if P then Q, P therefore Q. If Y then X, Y therefore X. I think that's it. I'm going from memory, so
With I mean, break it down for us slow boys. So you used P and Q and then Y and X. Was that just two of the same form?
you know how tag is usually presented as X is the necessary condition for Y,
Yeah.
Y therefore X. So if you actually write that out in propositional logic or symbolic logic, it looks like this. It says um, Y then X, if Y then X, Y therefore X. So
Right.
it's kind of hard to visualize it, especially if this is new to someone. But the point I'm trying to make is that if an atheist attacks the form, saying, "Oh, the argument is begging the question," um, you have to make them explain how it is, and there's no way that they can attack the form of this because it's literally attacking an inference rule that everyone
Right.
accepts in
I
logic.
mean, the
Like,
only place they
yeah,
can really, because they'll say it's valid, but it's not sound, and then you have to we just walked through this. They have to point out how it's not sound, what
right,
fallacy is being committed. But I'd say, yeah, it's like how do you know that that's the correct precondition? Again, like this is kind of the best one. Like I have a friend who's like, I just don't think tag's a very good argument. He says he doesn't think it's convincing. He says it could work, but he thinks that for tag to be a functional argument, and to say that God, the Orthodox Christian God, is the necessary precondition for knowledge, you'd have to systematically disprove every other variable you could plug into that to verify that it's not a precondition. To therefore, through negation, show that it is the Orthodox Christian God. I don't know if that's necessary. Again, Jay would
mhm.
just say, "Well, there's not that many starting points. Let's just go through the three that there are."
Yeah, yeah. It's how they object to the if it supposedly being an informal fallacy of begging the question is going to depend on someone's metaphysic, epistemology, and ethic. But like what a fact is a I mean that boils down to your worldview. What exactly is a fact? Because that's really what they're saying is okay, it's valid, but it's not a fact. It's not true.
Right.
Okay, but what is true?
Right.
is also going to be conditioned by your worldview,
What your standard
commitments.
of truth, your epistemology is, because everybody has to have a viewpoint. So I
Yeah,
mean, if you're an atheist, then I don't understand how you aren't viewing the world through a disteleological lens, which that just is big words for there's no meaning in the world. The world is meaningless, and there is no purpose to our lives. There's even like an atheist church near me. There's a couple of them, but one of them I think is called what's it called? It's gonna come back to me like Standpoint, something like that.
hmm
I can't remember, but it's their whole thing that they preach on their Sunday mornings is that the world and the universe are totally meaningless. We're all going to die in a heat death of the universe billions of years from now. So because there's no meaning, we can create and craft our own meaning. That's freeing to us that we can be our own gods. What this atheist church teaches. Oh
I didn't
yeah,
know
we
that was
get
a
in
thing. That's
this
insane.
teleological. Yeah, that's I have good friends who are atheists that have said, "Oh, it's really positive." I love you guys if you're
Y-
watching. Happen to watch.
Yeah,
It's
it boils down to accidentalism,
yeah.
right? So, and this is something that that guy Russ Mannion, Father Deacon, writes about Russ Mannion a lot. Um, in his paper Contingency of Knowledge, he goes through the history of philosophy and he says, look, in our metaphysic, it boils down to either accidentalism or intentionalism. The atheist metaphysic is accidentalism, that there was no um,
First
intent in the
mover.
beginning. First mover, yeah, it just happened, just so happened, and um, here we are. And so the price tag of that metaphysic of accidentalism, that metaphysic is going to bleed into your epistemology, meaning, okay, then ultimately knowledge is accidental. And what
Right.
do we say to people that make accidental knowledge claims? That's not actually knowledge. Just because you have a
Right.
lucky guess of getting to the true belief, that's not knowledge. And by the way, truth. How does truth even exist in accidentalism metaphysic?
Right.
Like, the truth isn't necessary. It just happened, or what we call truth is just this sort of fiction that we attach to propositions, like Jim Bob says, right? In materialism, the materialist metaphysic, truth is it just is. Truth is this like
It would have to be
it,
physical if you're a strict materialist. The truth, if I mean, they would say it's like a construct, therefore it comes from our mind. So before our minds, there was no concept of truth. So truth is just physical components, chemicals within their own minds.
yes, exactly. There's no truth in the matter, right? There's no truth molecule or
Mhm.
chemical structure sitting in the tornado, right? The tornado is not more truthful than the
The blade of
bubbling geyser,
grass.
right?
Mhm.
And so these people arguing with you, these materialist atheists, they're trying to negate your position, saying, "Oh, that's false. That's false. That's not true." What are you talking about? I mean, um, everything would have to be quote true in a sense,
Right.
because I mean, there's no. First of all, how are you even talking about truth and falsehood? Those aren't even like physical things. That's an immaterial thing. And if it is physical, if they take the materialist thesis
That's
that,
it's more
you know,
consistent. It's internally more consistent if you believe everything's material to say that these uh, objectively, I think objectively immaterial transcendental things, you'd have to say that they're also physical to be consistent. But once you do that, man, it's total absurdity. It's either a
yeah,
contradiction because you're saying there are immaterial things while also saying everything's material, or it leads to just bananas like the moral field of T jump.
yeah, it just leads to absurdity. And they, if they're actually consistent with their position, I really think that these people should just be quiet. Like they should just be silent and learn,
So one
or
thing
try to learn.
I've heard some people say that this isn't true, but I'm trying to think of why it wouldn't be the case. Because from my perspective, it's not hard to disprove atheism because you can show that the things that it's founded upon, determinism, materialism, empiricism, are unjustified starting positions, and that for them to it's almost it's impossible for them to be true. So if atheism we can be demonstrated to be false, would that show the necessity for not necessarily the Christian God, but a creator? And I wouldn't argue obviously for a generic Like C.S. Lewis, that's how he argues, is that he wants you to get you to the supernatural and get you to a God and then get you to Christ. But does that
Mm.
follow that if atheism is disproven, therefore God? I've heard some people say that's not true. Oh, that just shows the positive of materialism and atheism
Mhm.
being incorrect. That doesn't show the positive of God existing.
Well, I did say that we have to present a positive account in
Right.
argumentation, but there are certain fundamental paradigm level questions like there's a true dichotomy between knowledge exists or it doesn't exist. There's no middle. Either I exist or I don't exist. There's no I kind of exist
It's because of the law of identity.
either.
It's like if something's half knowledgeable, half discernible, then it's no longer knowledge. It would be breaking the law of identity for it to be something in the middle, right?
Right. There are some true dialectical or true dichotomies that, and it's either one case or the other. It's a true um, dichotomy. It's a true disjunction. Now, if you refute one part of the dichotomy, then the other must necessarily be true. And that's what you hear people say due to the impossibility of the contrary, right? What they're really saying is that, well, given this true dichotomy, if you disprove one, the other one must be true. So there are cases where, yes, just by negating the other disjunct, then the contrary disjunct must be true. Okay, now this isn't the case always, right? When you're debating someone and arguing, you do have to present a positive account. Um, but when we're talking about like a certain metaphysical position or epistemic or ethical, either the good exists or doesn't exist. Either knowledge is possible or it is impossible. Either I exist or I don't exist, right? I identified three things from each branch of philosophy that are a true dichotomy. So if if you defeat the atheist worldview on a specific point, then the contrary must be true, right? If you prove that knowledge is possible, or I'm sorry, if you prove the atheist epistemic position that knowledge is impossible, what's the contrary? Knowledge must be the case, must be possible. So yes, um, I think that you can prove God exists in the metaphysical question, like reality is either intentional or accidental,
Right.
right? If you prove it's not accidental, then what's the contrary? Intentional, right?
And
So
with
yeah.
intentionality, there has to be a being, there has to be a mind, there has to be something. And then that, like, again, like I'm not arguing. I don't think it's a win to get somebody to go from atheism to generic mysticism or something. But wouldn't that point to something if
Mhm.
atheism can be disproven in that way? If, like
Yeah,
you said, if it's not accidental and it's intentional, then that opens up somebody to they have to explore other options. There has to be some
that's right.
creator.
Yeah,
And then
because
Now
you
the
at
would be
that
real
like, this is
point,
the
debate.
positive argument for the Orthodox Christian God and why it provides the grounding for all these preconditions, and then we can make the arguments against Roman Catholicism or Protestantism, and those to me would be typically like more historical accounts. I mean, you can get into all the theological things, but both of those forms of false forms of Christianity are not hard to defeat, just given a historical account, I think. I don't know if that's where you would take it.
Totally. The real debate is in the theology realm. Which God is the right God? It's not. We've already moved past atheism is not the case, right? Now the real
Right.
debate is which religious tradition is the true one. So the atheist is so far behind in the debate that um, first we need to establish that uh, God exists. Okay, the atheism is proven false. Now, which is the right God? And that's why it's important to present TEG and the EO apologetic as the Orthodox triune God from the beginning. It's but yeah, I totally agree with you that you can prove atheism wrong, and then the contrary that theism is the case. Okay, now the debate is which is the right tradition, which is the
Right.
right God, which is it's not a silver bullet like super easy answerable question because it requires philosophy, theology, and history.
Right.
Right? It's not easy.
How's it going, guys?
Hey, Nadeem. Hey, Logan. Thanks for jumping in, you guys.
What
How
up?
you
What
doing?
up?
Yep.
We're here. We're talking mostly about tag. I had a guy who was agnostic for he says like basically his whole life, and he just recently had some kind of conversion experience, and now he's a Protestant. He calls himself a non-denominational disciple of Christ, but he's
So a
inquiring into
Protestant in
orthodoxy.
denial.
Well, he's just somebody who has come to believe that Christ is the Messiah and that there's the triune God, and it looks like he is inquiring into orthodoxy, but he's just kind of, out there in new convert land, not in any kind of hierarchy kind
He
of thing. He
changed
wanted
his
to,
name.
Okay.
yeah, I know. I think that's just like probably his old handle, but he would be able to understand agnostics and atheists being one for, I think he said
Is
19
he
years.
still here?
He didn't hop on. We had scheduled this and he didn't. It says he read my message, but he didn't show up, so I'll have to reschedule with him. But this has turned into an open panel. Right now we're talking about tag. We can take it anywhere. I do have a couple other things about this I'd like to talk about tag, at least right here. Do you guys have anything to open up with? I don't know if you guys have been listening. Anything you want to comment on before I take it to another level with tag?
I think our presenter of Tag is Jiub with all the Jay Dyer he watches. I think he
Yeah.
does like. Don't you do the clips for? Like,
Yeah.
I think I saw clips. Yeah, so I think you probably know more than us on Tag.
I've learned some through just the clips and timestamps, and then I also I recently took Father Deacon's logic course,
Hmm.
which has helped me in some of the technical understanding of the logic of it, and that was really helpful. If anybody wants to learn like the technical stuff, Father Deacon's logic course is really good, and he does like all these like office hours, or you can like sign up for that, and that really was kind of the aha, like getting past the surface level understanding of it for me. So that's why I really took it, because I'm like, okay, I don't want to just be able to just repeat this. I want to like understand it more.
Right.
So
Well, I think
all of
the
jargon,
argument will
yeah.
probably continue to develop and get better as skeptics and people who don't agree with tag, as they start to understand it more. Because I feel like most people that attack tag just actually don't understand it that well, and I think
I
as they
think
begin to understand it, we'll be able to have better objections as people are actually grappling with it, and then tag will just get stronger. That's my
I
hope.
think I
Right now,
think
it's just like I feel like it's always surface level.
as long as there's like a non-Christian or like an atheist that's listening to Tag, as long as they're willing to listen, I think they'll start to understand it more. But most of them, and I mean most of them, they just don't listen, and they do like constant or like constant fallacies. It's and it's super obvious. It's like a low level. Debating with like at least the ones we see in the streams that we join. Like I think we
Yeah.
all join some so like Jim Bob streams there. It's like
Jay streams his open debates
it's
on Twitter.
crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. Like this guy today, I like both days. It's like it's the only times I chat. Was great. My brain cells were frying. It's like how
Yeah.
how dumb the arguments are. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're not even arguments. They're just stating what they believe. It's
Right.
I think it has a lot to do
why do you
with
join streams of like intellectual people if you're just gonna come and start whining?
Well, I think most people are used to just like chatting with their friends or their coworkers, and it's all just descriptive, all just I think this, I think
Yeah,
that, this is how I feel. Oh man, I could see it like that. They don't really think about it logically. They don't think about it having some kind of actual metaphysical structure. It's all just um, flattened landscape. Everyone's just, telling how they see it, how they feel. And that's an argument for this person, is just, I just don't see it that way,
yeah, because I think it has a lot to do with just the general way culture has gone with like a lot of the sort of push for liberty and freedom and all the Enlightenment nonsense that takes precedent nowadays. And so everybody thinks that, you know, the most surface level basic stuff, everybody's entitled to their axioms and presuppositions, and you're not allowed to question them. And then nobody really studies actual philosophy and the history of it and all these different arguments. They have only the most surface level understanding of, oh, philosophy is when talking about not science. And
oh, it's when we talk about the things we can't really prove.
Yeah.
Through empiricism.
Yeah. And so they don't know how to grapple with it because they're not used to having those fundamental assumptions questioned. They're not used to these actual argumentation forms and how to actually structure an internal or external critique. And so they listen and they hear all this, and some of them don't really listen. They just think, that's cool and all, but I know, like, and others of them, they try and listen, but they just can't wrap their heads around it because they have never been exposed to this kind of stuff. And I got to admit, that was when I first got into it. I had never been exposed to it because I was so used to the low tier Protestant approach to everything.
Right. They grapple with it within the framework of materialism. You know, like they all like can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but he'd always talk about, like, we look at the different signs in the universe, and if we look at, you know, in our bodies, there's something called laminin. Look, it's shaped like a cross. Like even our own cells are screaming the cross out to us. You know, like it's all within the confines of materialism, of empiricism. They're trying to get them to just, like, if I just throw enough things that kind of point to Jesus, from what I think, at you, then you'll go, wow.
I think it's sad that that's the mainstream Christians that have more like presence in the, at least in the online world, because it helps atheism. You know, it's like it pushes people more into atheism, and like, I don't know if you guys were. I know Mr. Westford was in Jiub stream when there was a guy. They were talking about like physicality or something, and they blamed everything into physicality, and they think there's only truth in something physical, and there's no absolute truth. Something
You're talking about the stream today?
or metaphysical. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I threw a couple comments out. I just kept saying the same thing, adding different variables. Like, he kept saying, like, everything's physical. Just because you're questioning our foundational epistemology, blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, is the foundation of your epistemology physical? If everything's physical, it would have to be. Can you please put it in my hand? Where is it?
So the guys that we were talking about this, there's one of them, he joined the chat and he's like,
you think there's literally like 100 stars, and you're saying, do you deny?
Yeah, so they were talking about physicality, and one of them joined the chat, and he's like what, he's like, a hurricane is not an object. I'm like, okay, is it physical? He's like, yes.
He says it's not true until it hurts my house.
Yeah, and I asked him, I'm like, is it I think another guy asked him. Then after, I'm like, he said, is the hurricane physical? He's like, yes. And then I'm like, okay, don't you think that's the same thing? And he's like, he started stating what he believed. He's like, yeah. Then he started saying Christ is not risen. He hasn't existed or something.
That's just being an edgelord.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, during Jim Bob's stream, when he was going over the atheists kind of having their little group therapy coping session.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, they kind of surrendered to his premise one and accidentally admitted that, you know, if everything's physical and propositions can't be different from other physical things because they're also physical, because if all effects of physics and physical things are neither true nor false, they just are, and propositions are also physical, then that means they're impossible to be true or false as well. But they just can't wrap their head around it because they're not used to thinking in that sort of philosophical, deeper way of, wait a minute, these things connect like this and things logically flow. It's just, I've been told my whole life all things are empirical and physical.
Well,
You know what?
the sun, the stars, the moon, meteors, all those things will become true the moment they touch my house.
Well, of course. Because me, and my things and stuff is how the world works, obviously.
Were you going to say something, Jiub?
Yeah, Logan, you brought up Jim Bob's argument about the propositions and physical effects. So I actually made a syllogism for that argument in case anybody attacks the form of it. I made a syllogism out of it. No physical effects are events more true or false than each other. All mental evaluations are physical effects. Therefore, no mental evaluations are events more true or false than each other.
You just destroyed the possibility of argumentation and knowledge.
Yeah.
Everything's relative. It's all relative. Given
I
the
have my
materialist
truth. You have your
thesis.
truth. My truth says your truth's bullshit, and that's it. My truth's bigger than yours and can beat you up.
Yeah, that was a big part of what got me into, I know some people don't like it, but I guess you would say like the online orthosphere was like seeing Jay Dyer talk to these people and they just outright refute the possibility of knowledge and claim that everything is determined and people's mental states are determined and there's nothing you can do to really change it. And he's like, that defeats the point of talking to me in the first place. And then they keep prattling on. And he's like, so like, is this an argument or are you just stating your determined truth against my determined truth for nothing more than entertainment value?
They just don't know
it's fun.
any basic argumental structure, at least philosophical argumental structure. Like they, if you ask them, they don't even know the definition of a fallacy. But like what what gives you the right to start arguing a point if you don't even know that stating your own belief is not an argument? That's like the first thing to start, at least giving your idea to someone else in a conversation. At least know that you can't just state your belief to argue. Like that's
Right.
not
A
even
claim
like,
is not an argument. You have to have
yeah. So
you have to have a justification.
I don't mind atheists like arguing against their own ideas. At least know that you have to argue, not to just state. You know, that's the thing that annoyed me the most. Like those chats, not annoyed me, but it's like read a little. There was a Protestant yesterday. He was arguing against orthodoxy and he started stating stuff about Catholicism, and I'm like, yeah, we don't believe in the immaculate conception or something.
Right.
And he's like, oh, okay. I'm like, okay, just go read about orthodoxy, then
Go find a book. Go find a priest to ask questions to.
then start arguing against it. He's like, oh, okay, thank you very much. Then after one guy, another Orthodox, he chat something and he argues against it. I'm like, what was the point of telling me thanks? You know?
That's good advice. I will not take. I would love to see a supercut. I feel like I've heard so many atheists recently be asked. They're like they make the claim we can only know things like it's the best way to know anything is through science, through empiricism, and that's what we should. That's the highest standard of knowledge of truth. And then you just ask them, "What's the scientific method?" They're like, "Well, I mean, I can't say it off the top of my head." Can you like give like us like can you paraphrase it? Can you give like part of it? No, I'm not a scientist.
No,
like Static, how you doing?
Yeah, what's up, man? Nothing much. How about yourself?
Doing good. It's a nice sunny Tuesday. Hopefully it starts warming up here. It's just got super windy as soon as I said that. Now I'm cold.
I wanted to comment on what you just said. The scientific
Which
method.
part?
Yeah, they like to say that the scientific method is the best way to gain new information, right? This type of empiricist worldview, even though the scientific method, that mechanism is not empirical.
Right.
They hate when I tell them that.
Yes, it's the what is peripatetic axiom, where there's only what we know can only be found determined through the sense data. Where is the peripatetic axiom in the sense data? It's not, so
Yeah.
therefore it's false.
Yeah.
I just want to point something because I don't think we ever like so rarely like in this circle of like the orthosphere or something. We never talk about how like actual like orthodox like people that practice orthodoxy, most of them don't know any of this
Yeah,
stuff. Not
and
like
they don't need
most
to.
of
I mean, this isn't necessary
yeah,
for
they
salvation.
don't, but like we have to acknowledge that the other part and the other counter side they don't also like some are born Orthodox and they're like okay they're just Orthodox and they go on their life and they never talk about it and it's just done. They're Orthodox and it's done. But I think it's the same thing for like someone that grew up in a Protestant or like a Catholic or even an atheist. They're like most people don't care about this stuff, but I think it's important. It's important for Orthodox to know their theology. I think it's super
Right.
important. Even if you're not interested in intellectual stuff, it doesn't have to be. But I think a push. I always start thinking about like education because I think we should push at least in Orthodox countries. We should like you're not you should like most of you are American, but I mean that's an idea that should be spread. I think should be spread for global Orthodoxy, not only American Orthodoxy. That's not what I'm talking about. But I think they should definitely do like some sort of program to for like or that has a specific time or date. For example, one class that talks about theology, not just catechism, like Sunday school or something, but maybe like an educational thing about church history or about theology. I think
Are you
that's a
saying
more
like
interesting.
something like catechism, and then there's like seminary, and you're saying something like in between?
Exactly. So something for just like laity, like us we're laity. We're not part of seminary, but we know stuff that like I think mostly only seminary and orthodoxy know about. So I think
So
most converts though they tend to know more
Yeah, I mean,
because
I know
I'm not a
a woman
convert.
who's like in her mid 40s that was cradle here in America, and she started coming to catechism class, and she was like, I didn't know any of this stuff. I just I all of my life I've gone to church, I've lit my candles, I've prayed, and so
Yeah,
it's like she's discovering, or it's like she feels like she's a convert now because she's getting into all of the theology and all of
yeah,
the
me
deeper
too. Me
aspects.
too. I feel like a convert, but I'm Orthodox all my life. But I didn't know any of this stuff before. Before like what the beginning of this year, I started looking
Mm.
up. I didn't even know there was differences between like Orthodox and Catholic. I didn't. I thought it was
Wow.
just. I thought it was just. I knew there was differences. It's all because of
Did
the
you know we
Pope.
are not in communion? Did you know that?
No, no, yeah, I knew, I
Okay,
knew.
okay.
I always hated the Pope. I was, but I knew there was differences. I'm like, yeah, the only difference is the way we commune and that we don't believe in the Pope.
Mhm.
I thought that was the only thing, um, and that's like I was raised Orthodox, like, but I think there's a lot of ecumenism today that
Yes.
it's super hard not to fall into ecumenism, but glory to God, I started reading a bit, I use my brain, but
I would agree with you that there definitely needs to be more continued catechism, or however you want to describe it,
yeah,
more
because I'm
depth.
talking about catechism on like for children during Sunday school. It's much less than the cat like they get off easily, you know. Uh, but I feel like for converts, catechism is very rigorous.
Right.
It's like a hard. It takes what yeah, it's like you're not even baptized yet. It's like you're working to get to it. But non-converts are like, yeah, it's just some knowledge you keep some, and if the other like if you don't believe in this, it's okay. At least you believe in orthodoxy or in Christ. But
Mhm.
like for example, evolution. For example, they don't teach you as a kid in Sunday school that evolution is something that's like secular.
Totally
That's
opposed to our
wrong,
faith.
and that opposes our faith. But they're like, yeah, it doesn't matter as long as you believe that God created the earth. That's okay. But I don't think it is. I think a lot of saints talk about the importance of knowing what's actually true or not. And I don't know, that's the thing that saddened me. I can, like, we keep on talking about Protestantism and everything, but I can talk like a local Orthodox or something like that. I think that's one of the big problems. We should work on ourselves first. I
Mhm.
think I'm not talking about you guys because like American Orthodoxy is like booming, you know that. So I
Yeah, it
think
is.
you guys are doing what you should do, because everyone is doing catechism, at least most of you.
Mhm.
So I think that's good, but I think us as in the local Orthodox should start stuff, because most of the like youth movements started in our especially in Lebanon, for example. The youth movements we have in the area of it's called Mount Lebanon, the archdiocese I'm part of in Lebanon. Um, it's we have like a movement. It's called MJO. It's in French, Mouvement de Jeunes Orthodoxes. It's full. It's fully uh, uh, indoctrined in this ecumenist belief, because like most hierarchs in Lebanon and in Antioch, the Antiochian hierarchs, most are trying to appease the ears of the people. They want more believers, but they don't care if it's in Orthodoxy. They just care if it's Christianity. And like I'm not judging any hierarch, but
Right.
I'm just saying how the times have changed. But
I mean, that's like, I think we need to speak in truth and love, and I think if you
yeah,
speak in love without truth, then that's not really love. I mean, if you know that
exactly.
orthodoxy is the truth and that it is the only fullness of Christianity, then why would you want someone to be in a lesser form that's only going to lead to more heartache and more frustration, because it has all these
Mhm.
errors are going to have real world impact on those people.
Yeah, because they're like, yeah, the Muslims are more, so as long as you're Christian, it's better, you
I
know.
mean, that sounds like Roman Catholicism, because they have the
Yeah,
since Vatican II, they
no,
have
no,
the they have
that's
the concentric
the.
circles. There's Catholic,
I'm not saying
and then
that's what the.
Orthodox, and Protestant, and Islam, and it's like, the
I'm
closer you
not
get to the
saying
middle of the
what.
onion. I'm not saying
I'm not
that's what they're
saying
saying, but that sounds like
that's
it could
not
lead
what
to
they're
that.
saying, but that's what the people there, like the Christians, like what that they're saying. The hierarchs would never dare say that. They're not under Patriarch Bartholomew, so
Right.
they're not that down
That far gone.
that far gone. Yeah, I think I respect our the Antiochian Patriarch. He's I think and you should respect your patriarch anyway. So,
Right.
so
Right. Even if he is a
yeah,
heretic, I mean, you should like, if I've heard people say, if Bartholomew came to my church, I would ask for his
I would
blessing,
kiss
because
his
he's
hand.
a
Yes, of
yeah.
course, because he's still an icon
I'm
of
not going to
Christ.
affirm the heresies that he's preaching, but
Exactly.
I'm not going to be a rebel. I'm not going to be
Elpidophorus, I would kiss Elpidophorus's hand, but I would never
right.
listen to his sermon. You know,
Not
so
and not only is that important for obedience, but like, if we do love, if we're not just trying to do like the American conservative thing of like owning the person in error, own the libs. We actually care about these people. We want them to live in truth and live in love, and we need to show that to them. We're not trying to, own them with facts and logic.
Exactly. I think Russia is the answer for all the problems I just stated. I think for at least the non-converts, I think Russia helps a lot. I think helps. I mean, for themselves, they had the church is booming there. It's like the pillar. The pillar patriarchate, I can say that, but I still believe in the Antiochian patriarchate. It's close to my heart.
I go to an Antiochian church.
It's more ancient than the Russian one, so you could never
got them beat by 900 years or so.
I mean, we were leading.
1,000 years.
We were the first patriarchate for a while, So we used to have more when Constantinople was taken over. We had all the we had more power than Constantinople. So
were you going to say something apophatic?
I was just going to make a comment on people becoming genuine, quote unquote, genuine Orthodox because of the issues with the patriarchs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's the worst thing. Sorry.
Oh yeah, it's the worst thing, and it's because people are misinformed with canons, and they think that they can read canons, and they go into pre-list because you have laymen's reading canons that they're supposed to have the interpretation of a priest with them as well to understand these, and they're just full-blown reading them, and they're like, oh well, it's time to become genuine Orthodox because the patriarch is a heretic and stuff like that.
Let me join the true Orthodox.
They're Pharisees.
Yeah, let me become a schismatic.
Yeah, let me become a schismatic. That'll fix all my problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they're Pharisees. They're the new modern age Pharisees. It's like
it's like the thing that we criticize the Protestants and the RCs for a lot, like going overly legalistic with this stuff.
Yeah.
They're not letting the priesthood and the bishops use economia. They think that they're the grand arbiter of the canons and they can read them and hand out justice, and it's like, calm down there. We've had this system for 2,000 years. Give it some credit.
Yeah, exactly. I always like to bring up to the genuine, quote unquote, genuine Orthodox people that who was the man that literally condemned St. Maximus Confessor to being tortured? It was the emperor and the patriarch that were working together to do that. So we've had bad patriarchs all throughout history, and they just think that like, oh no, it's not okay. This super legalistic thinking.
I mean, Nestorian was a patriarch.
Who was it that said that the path to hell is paved with the skulls of bishops? Anybody know that one off the top of their head? I can't remember the saint who said that.
What did he say? I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
The path to hell is paved with the skulls of bishops.
I haven't heard of that.
Oh, he's basically saying, like, he's not saying we should be disobedient, but he's saying that bishops can err, and there have been many. I mean, Arius, Nestorius, all these heretics were
St. John
bishops.
Chrysostom.
Yeah, that sounds like him.
Yeah, that's what he said.
We can change the topic a bit. What do you think about the female deacon that got? No, I'm not calling her a deaconess. She's a female deacon.
In Roman Catholicism?
No, in the patriarchate of Alexandria in Africa.
Oh, I haven't heard of this.
You didn't see it on
no.
Let me show you on Twitter. It's crazy.
She's actually altar serving and such?
No, she's giving communion.
That's pretty extreme. I went to
serving is if there isn't like guys going to serve, it's okay. Like it depends on the bishop, but sometimes it's okay if a girl is serving if there's no man serving.
Right.
As an
I mean, like Nub Rass is saying in the chat here that we'll have to make a video about it. I'm sure he's like, this proves that orthodoxy is not true. well, I was eating a bucket of fried chicken. But
Oh, no,
that doesn't mean
it doesn't,
orthodoxy is not true.
no,
That
it
because
doesn't.
that somebody's doing something incorrectly. It seems like Michael Lofton probably wouldn't even recognize that we are not Roman Catholics, that we don't have a centralized system like us. If one whole patriarchate crumbles and is in heresy, that doesn't mean that orthodoxy is not true. It just means somebody's fallen away. And people can be in heresy, in prelest and all these things and not be, condemned or anything.
Yeah, we're not papists. I mean,
Right.
the Pope can't even be condemned if he falls in prelest. So,
But when I went to the state of Georgia, not the Republic of, and I went to a liturgy there in one of those southern churches that was like a Baptist church that converted to Orthodoxy, like some 30, 40 years ago, and they had a lot of things that felt very Protestant. It was a Greek church. They had greeters like with name tags. They'd be out in the narthex the whole time, and like introducing themselves to people. You couldn't go down the middle of the nave. You only could go in through the side doors and like go in. There was pews. You'd sit down like the whole time. The only time it was just like constantly standing up and sitting down. They had a female reader who was like in a cassock and red and stuff. And there was a deacon who was giving blessings. Like people were kissing his hands. Like what is going on here? Like
Everything other than the deacon getting his hand kissed sounds like like Lebanon.
oh yeah, I mean, so those are the different things I saw. Like I'm just
No, just but I did you say the doors everyone would go in?
so there was you'd open up into the north. You go in the extra narthex, open a door, and then it's the narthex, and there's
No,
three
that's not it.
doors.
Okay,
There's two doors on either side, and then one middle door. You are not allowed in through the middle door during the service. You could only go in through the side doors. You
anyone
aren't allowed
or only
anyone.
church servers.
Like only clergy were allowed to go down the middle of the nave. You had to go in through the sides, and
okay,
then
that's
you had to go
normal,
and sit your pew.
but
Is that normal there?
No, I think it's normal. Any pew Orthodox church with pews, I think it's normal. I mean, you can go in the middle, but you're supposed to cross your face. You should at least bow down. I think that depends on the bishop, but so you're saying anyone could go in the two doors? Anyone
on the side? Yeah. So there's three doors. You go in through one at the left or the right, and anybody like visitor.
Oh, okay. No, then that's
so that's not, I'm not talking I'm talking about going into the nave from the narthex.
Into the altar, or
not to the altar. That's not the iconostas.
No.
It's not the royal doors and like the deacon doors. I'm talking about
walking
into the church. So in my church,
it doesn't sound like Lebanon.
Okay, well, yeah, in my church, there's the narthex, and there's just the one door, and it goes into the nave, and there's only pews lining the side for elderly and sick and people who are injured or whatever. And then if you're gonna walk across the middle, then you'd cross yourself and look towards the altar. But this church, it was like it felt like pretty rigid, like only going through the side doors and then get a seat. Don't stand up. It was just not what I'm used to.
They didn't venerate
it's the same thing in Lebanon, but or even all Antiochian. It's because normally in the Antiochian churches there's pews like in mostly every church, but I think that's.
I'm definitely in a pewoclast.
I suppose it's mostly converts in your church.
Yeah, it's some people, some immigrants, and the rest converts.
The immigrants sit, yeah.
See, that's
no, not all of them, no.
That's interesting.
Because there's no church. I mean, in actual the Antiochian territory, there's it's super rare for churches without pews. Like
it's rare for churches without pews there.
Without
I would have
pews,
guessed the old country would be less westernized. That's strange to me.
See, no, it's I never went to a church without pews other than Russian churches.
To me, that's just like how do you do prostrations? Like it's just.
I mean, when prostrations are done, only like 10 people come to the services when prostrations are done. So
yeah, see that's a problem.
Yeah,
we're gonna stay apathetic. We talked over you a little bit.
Yeah, it was all right. I was just gonna say, like in the church that you were talking about earlier that you would went to, where would they venerate icons? Like
there was like two. So there was like no veneration of icons in the in the nave, but there was a couple in the narthex that people would venerate.
But they weren't allowed in the narthex, right? Or were they not?
So no, sorry, you could go in the but like I'm saying that there was 3 doors. So you walk in and you see the nave in front of you. There's a double door. It's like a main aisle, and then 2 pews on either side, 2 rows of pews going like this. And then there's 2 doors on either side. That's like the edge of the room, the edge of the nave. You'd walk in. If you're on the left door, the pews on your right. If you're on the right door, the pews on your left. And you go in, you just have to sit down. So you weren't allowed through the middle double doors into the middle of the nave.
Yeah, that's a little bit weird.
Can I share my screen?
Yeah, it was strange. Yeah. Does it say share screen for you?
Is it present or?
Yeah, present and then share screen.
I mean, so my parish is mostly cradle from Greek immigrants, and we have pews.
Okay.
Yeah.
I definitely
Like,
very much.
I don't know. I found it a little bit. Yeah.
Found a little bit what?
Can you see it?
I can. Oh, so this is the female deacon giving communion.
Yeah, it was on Holy Thursday, I think. Like, it's ironic, like when he got betrayed, when Christ got betrayed.
Well, I mean, we should be praying for these people. I think this is an error, but I mean, obviously, like we were saying, like
but it's crazy because
the theology definitely doesn't have an
patriarch
argument.
supports it. So
yeah, that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate.
Reason in theology.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I do want to get back.
Go ahead. My bad.
To tag. I had at least 2 more things I thought I'd bring up and see what y'all thought. So I have a friend who's pretty critical of tag, and he says, well, if you guys don't like natural theology, because if you start with nature, the natural world, but it's a fallen world, and then you try to reason from it, you're gonna have all these unnatural fallen things baked in that you'd assume are natural, and that's why you have not just like the reasoning up to generic God, but you have all of these death must be natural because we see death in nature. He says, why wouldn't the fallen nature aspect also affect tag? Why would these transcendental categories not have some fallen nature, fallen aspect to them that would make tag incoherent, because it'd be assuming that these categories are in their full state and not some fallen state?
Well, natural theology would lead to like anything anywhere could be God. Like
right. I mean, yeah, it leads you up to
I think at least atheism.
monism.
Yeah, monism probably.
And it leads to no differentiation with any religion. So every religion would come from the same thing.
Yes, but we're saying his objection is, how would the fallen state of the world not affect the tag argument? Jiub, do you have any response to that? Have you heard of that objection?
I mean, would it not be?
I'm not that knowledgeable on tag, okay. So I just want.
It kind of reminds me of the noetic depravity argument, because that's really what they're saying. Look, if the world is fallen and we're using the fallen world to reason up to God, this almost sounds like total depravity with a Calvinist, right? Remember, a Calvinist believes that we are totally depraved, we have an evil nature, and it's corrupted to a great extent. And so the price tag of that is that they have no privileged position to debate or argue,
right?
Given their noetic faculties are too blemished and unclean, right? So if these transcendental categories are blemished and unclean and fallen, that would also entail the destruction of knowledge being possible. So that's the route I would go if somebody tries arguing that, oh, these are all fallen things, you can't trust tag. Well, okay, there's a price tag to that. By the way, how do you even know that, given your fallen?
Yeah, it's still an appeal, which my having thought about this for the last like 3 weeks since he brought this objection, my conclusion is, well, we are arguing from our worldview. We're arguing for the fullness of the faith. We're arguing for revelation. Like we can know God because he's revealed himself to us. So even with you objecting to it being a fallen status of the world, that's still appealing to revelation. How would you know it's fallen unless you accept the revelation? You can't even argue that it's fallen unless you accept revelation. So that
Exactly.
seems to be a flip on its own self.
Yeah, revelation is distinct from trying to reason, right? Like in Orthodoxy, you can't reason to the 7 days of creation, like Thomas Aquinas said. Like you can't
Right.
like do the philosophical pondering and come to that conclusion. But what I would say to this is exactly what you're saying, which is that it's revelatory. The idea of God being necessary and his necessity is revealed to us, right? Because the tag is kind of like a worldview package. So it does include our theology and stuff like that. And most of our theology is revealed, right?
Right.
So that's, saying, it's just like saying, since the noose is blinded, the wisdom of man is as foolish unto God, that we can't make the tag argument. If it's revelatory, it's distinct from reasoning. So,
Right.
I mean,
I would just add one thing. We can't reason it, but we have to believe it. As like any revealed thing, we have to believe in it. Like he gave the example of the 7-day creation. We can't reason to it. We can't possibly, in our human mind.
You're telling me that because we have 7 days in the week that we can't just say because of that, then there's 7 days of creation. You can't tell me we can't go that route. Come on. 7 days of the week, 7 days of creation. I don't see any contradiction there.
No,
It's a joke. It's a joke.
I'm saying, but we have to believe in it. So like everything you said is true, but it it can be a counter argument. But okay, so then you don't believe in the 7-day creation. But like a Roman Catholic would be like, yeah, you don't believe in it. We're like, no, we can believe in it, but not know the reasoning behind it. They equate reasoning with belief exactly. But anything that you believe can be reasoned with, but it can't. There's a lot of mysteries in the church. So,
Logan, did you want to say something? I think I didn't hear you.
Oh, not really at first, but on the like the RC perspective thing, it's hard to pin them down on any one single thing, especially as of late, because more and more it's shown itself to just be submit to the Pope and everything is fine. You can have your own different theological schools and understand it through completely different lenses and suppositions, but in the end, you just bow down and kiss the ring, do what the Pope says. And so it runs the gambit from completely occult to overly legalistic and rigorous with no real respect for the divine mysteries.
kiss the tyrant, do whatever.
Yep. Well, Jiub, I think I heard you start talking. What were you saying?
what do you guys think about the idea that these, like, take the transcendental categories, for example, these are really abstract, universal ideas that come from God. They're not in God's mind, but they're a reflection. Isn't that kind of a revelation? I mean, if somebody
So you're
makes
saying like the logos and the logi of Maximus the Confessor, is it something like that?
yeah, even though the transcendentals aren't identical to logi,
Yeah, I'm not saying that.
if somebody is like, if somebody makes the claim, well, these transcendentals are blemished and corrupted, and how do you know? Okay, well, I mean, the way I think about it is these are kind of like they're in the cosmos, but they're reflections of the divine mind. So are they really saying that these are corrupted things coming from God? I mean, that just seems absurd.
I would say
to make that claim.
maybe like somewhat tangential. Like if there is some kind of fallen nature to like human spirituality or transcendentals in some way because of the fall, my mind goes to, there's lots of fathers of the church that will say that Adam and Eve had some kind of different ontology than us in the garden before their fall, that they didn't have the exact physical bodies that we did, their spirit, their soul, and their body was interconnected in such a way that was like a different way of being, and that when God gave them the garments of skin, that was like them like condescending into more base material reality. They, like the garment of skin was them being given their physical bodies that we have now, and that potentially there was some kind of disconnect with their higher spirituality, their nous, and their physicality that was much less separated pre-fall. And we just had unction here in Holy Week, and it's for the healing of our soul and body. And I was reading like meditations on Holy Week and on Holy Unction, and it talked about not only is it there to like heal spiritual ailments, to heal physical ailments, diseases, sickness, but it's to heal the brokenness that is there. There's a disconnect between our spirit, our nous, and our physical body, and it's trying to reintegrate us in that way. I don't know. Does that make any sense to you? This is just me musing.
A little bit, yeah. Even if we grant that that it's kind of our perception that's blighted or blemished, it doesn't follow from that the transcendental categories or these universal objects are themselves blemished, right? So that would be a huge gripe I would have, is someone says, well, how do you know, how can you make this argument if the transcendentals are part of the fallen world? Excuse me, but transcendentals, these universal ideas, aren't rooted in human minds. So are
Right.
you really saying that the corruption is stemming from something close to God? I mean, it just
Well, I mean,
seems like that would
to
defeat
push back and
knowledge.
see what your response is, I do believe that the fall of Adam was a cosmic event, and that the whole cosmos um, was altered in some way because of the fall of Adam. That he was kind of the crown of creation, and because he lost that crown, then that death entered the whole cosmos. So when Christ, um, he's the second Adam that doesn't fall like Adam did, then the whole cosmos is recapitulated in himself. And that
Mhm.
there's a whole cosmic change in Christ, just like there's a whole cosmic change in Adam. And I don't know, what your response is to that. I don't know if that's even like a
I mean,
direct
everyone,
attack, more of an
everyone
indirect attack
since
on what you're saying.
to relate that, everyone since Adam was stuck in Hades, and when Christ uh, died, he went down to Hades, and so that you can relate to the cosmic change or shift that happened after the resurrection. That's that's how I understand it. Am I wrong, or?
I would say that's a part, but and this I don't even have a full grasp on it, but lots of fathers, like especially Maximus Confessor, which I've only read a small bit of him, is constantly talking about the cosmic effects of the fall and of Christ, of the incarnation, of the crucifixion, of the ascension, and how these have not just in humans and human nature consequences, but in the whole cosmos consequences.
Okay.
And the full scope of that, I would be out of my depth to try to relate to you.
My response off the cuff to that would be, we have to remember that the fall is primarily a problem with our heart.
Mm.
It's not an intellectual problem about getting to God. It's a problem with our heart. So yes, you're right. The cosmos are groaning to be restored. Romans 8, right? It did have an effect on the cosmos. Our choice had an effect on the cosmos. But primarily, we can't blame the intellect for being fallen, because that would make man have an excuse if it's a problem with our intellect. The problem is ultimately with our heart being out of accord or wavering, and that's what needs to be healed. There's nothing like ontologically wrong with our faculties,
Mm.
right? Now, someone like a hardcore reformed Calvinist would say, yes, our faculties themselves are blemished, right? And even after regeneration, they're still blemished. And so it comes down to a nuance understanding between original sin and what that really means, right? So I would I wouldn't go so far as whoever this friend is saying that, oh, the cause of the transcendentals, which are part of the cosmos, are somehow blemished, and that makes this argument moot because we're relying upon blemished, ideas.
Right. My one of my pushbacks to my friend who's challenging tag quite a bit lately was, okay, you're saying that the transcendental categories are affected by the fall. Can you please tell me how metaphysics, ethics, transcendentals, in what way they are fallen and what status they have, what defects they have? Like I can in the physical world, I can point to animals now die, that humans die. Before the fall, there was no death. There was no humans dying. There were no animals dying. I can point to that, and that's very specific. Can you give me any specifics on how these transcendental categories have now a fallen state? And I haven't gotten. I think he was thinking about it. I haven't. I'd have to ask him again. I don't think he's given me a response to that.
Mhm. And also, what more clear or quote pure principle is he appealing to make
Right.
that judgment?
It's
Because that
it's
would
somewhat
assume.
of a fallacy of neutrality statement to be able to say that, right? That oh, those are fallen, and I can tell. It's like a Muslim saying the New Testament, the Old Testament, they are corrupt. Okay, how are they corrupt? Because they do not match with the Quran. Okay, which parts are they corrupt? The ones that do not match. It's like, okay, well, you have to like have knowledge of what the original is to say it was corrupted. They're like, just because this new text is not, it's they don't actually
What
have
what
the
what
position to
Job
tell us
said,
how it's corrupt.
what Job said made a lot of sense to me because the way the church was how do you say, was preserved. It wasn't preserved through the heart or like something that you can't feel or can't see. It was preserved through intellect. It wasn't so. I mean, the church fathers used intellect to relate to God, uh, to then relate the faultness of our hearts. So I think if I'm spewing nonsense, correct me, please.
I definitely think it was both. Like, we just have to be careful not to think like any sort of blemish that's in the cosmos as like a positive thing. It's not like it's baked into our nature.
Right. I think you're
Yeah.
saying that. Tell me if I'm hearing you right. That if to make this argument of the transcendentals being fallen, you'd have to take into the consider the whole revelation that evil is a negation. So if they don't, it wouldn't be like you and I. We don't believe in sinful nature like the Reformed do. We believe that we were created in the image and likeness of God, that our nature is good, as it says in the in Genesis account, and that we have fallen and we've not lived up to the likeness of God. But that doesn't mean our ontology is evil. There is no ontology of evil. It's a negation away from the good. So that would apply
Mhm.
to whatever these fallen effects that are being attributed to the transcendentals. It'd have to apply to that standard as well of negation, rather than ontological status.
Yeah, I mean, if we believe that everything in the world is fallen, then we couldn't. Then he's correct, and we couldn't argue that the transcendental arguments are not fallen. But that's not our view. I think it would be a big stumbling block for the Protestants, especially the ones that believe that we're like our nature is fallen.
Right. Original sin and sin nature
Yeah,
and total depravity and all
original
that.
sin, and the way that we're guilty of Adam's sin. Yeah, then
Mhm.
Where
And
is the fallen status in the law of identity? How is that fallen? What's wrong? What's the negation in the law of the excluded middle? What's happening there?
yeah,
I don't know.
I
I'm
also
just
I
being
also
a little
think
facetious.
that it's important to remind your friend or whoever's objecting to this is that the whole purpose of something like tag or the precept that we use is not to be an end all sort of
Right.
thing of itself, right? We're not trying to present this autonomous system, that this neat package of, oh, we've got it all figured out intellectually. This is the endpoint. This is the telos. No, ultimately, it's to show how autonomous epistemology fails and then points to God. It's like the purpose of tag is to perform an intellectual exorcism in order to point to the nous, to point to the heart. And how do you get your nous healed? You have to go into the church. You have to participate in the mysteries of the sacraments. You have to be obedient. You have to go through the life of Christ to the church. And so all this tag stuff, right? All this intellectual gymnastics, as people call it, its purpose is ultimately to point to the church, to point to the spiritual experience. However, the intellect and these pursuits are not to be, it's not like dialectically in tension with the nous. I mean, if God made the intellect and these categories that we use, it would ultimately point to himself. And so we're just using creation, which is ultimately good, to point back to God and to lead people there and to give them, give their intellectual faculties exorcisms, so to speak, in order to point them towards the church. So he might be mistaking that we're presenting this like autonomous system, that this orthodox, philosophy, without understanding its purpose.
The only other thing I wanted to bring up, that this is from the same friend again. He says that he believes Heidegger when he says that epistemology is a failed project. We don't need justifications. He says that tag is not convincing to me. The phenomenological argument is convincing. Just the fact that we exist, that we are here, is enough for me to believe in God. And then he was like, well, do I have to give an account? Do I have to give a justification for this cup I have in my hand? It just is. I have it here in my hand. How do you respond to that?
Well, that's just being arbitrary. I mean, if I use his own standard, I can just say God just is, but he's not going to be satisfied with that answer. Probably not.
Right. Well, to me, it's like we talked about earlier with one of the best arguments against tag is just, I'm not convinced. I don't have faith, and I would never have faith. If God appeared to me right here and was like, I'm God, I'd be like, you're a delusion. I'm delusional. It's you can't intellectually reason with somebody who denies having argumentation. You can't have an argument with somebody who doesn't believe.
That's intellectual dishonesty. That's
right.
I think.
Well, that's like Nietzsche, and apparently I've not read Heidegger, but apparently that's their whole thing is that we don't need argumentation. We just have the will to power to determine what. It's really silly.
I'm convinced that your atheism is true. I'm just so unconvinced.
It doesn't make sense because if God is present, you would feel something that you never felt ever. So it wouldn't be a normal like what would you say, this illusion or something. It would be something way like an elevation, a higher elevation of your own being. So it couldn't even be compared to an illusion or lunacy. So that goes against his argument of even what God is. So
yeah. Well, to me, it's like there's a simple defeater of like, we don't need arguments for anything. Okay, is that an argument? Yes. Then it's self-defeating. Yeah. But it's like Nietzsche with the will to power, or tons of postmodernists and such, where it's intentionally being self-defeating and like that, because then that gives us some kind of like magical power or whatever you want to say. Like if I don't have to justify anything, then I can. It's like my friends who go to this atheist church. There is no such thing as meaning. The entire universe and everything within it for all time is meaningless. Therefore, we can just create our own meaning, and we can live the lives we want, and we can just, come on together with me. Just you will have your life and I have mine, and we're all creating our own meaning together. It's if we take a bulldozer and we flatten everything, if we take the chessboard and we flip it, then we have the power to just rebuild these parts and just make it into whatever we want. It's like a toddler. But I mean, when somebody's there, can you reason to them when they say that they don't believe in reasoning?
Well, I mean, I would say yes, because if they say I don't believe in reasoning, aren't you reasoning to get to that conclusion in the first place?
Yeah, that's exactly what
they would say it doesn't matter. Just because I use it doesn't mean I believe in it. It doesn't mean I have to justify it. I have it. Why do I have to justify it? I have it.
Yeah. So just because you have something does not justify where and how it came from. That's not a good enough reason. That's what I would respond to.
I
But
don't believe in good reasons.
I don't believe in good reasons. When I
That's
was well, if you don't believe in
that,
good reasons, then you don't believe knowledge is possible. And if you don't believe that, then that's a reductio. But
I don't believe in
um,
knowledge, but I do have it.
I
Have
mean,
knowledge,
there's
but don't have knowledge.
inconsistent. I was gonna say when I was
I believe that I have knowledge, but I don't believe in it.
Yes, I believe we're all one. We're gonna say apathetic.
yeah.
It's
So I
like the
was
guy
gonna
you
say,
were watching yesterday. It's,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well, I'll get to him again, but we go on apathetic.
yeah, I was gonna say when I was debating recently on the atheist experience, and what was the guy's name? It was secularity or something. He was just like, I'm unconvinced. And I kept, so they have a hot mic on their channel so that you can't speak over them when you're speaking. But I just kept saying, like, that's personally incredulous. Saying that you're unconvinced, that's like, is this
I'm
really
not
what you
convinced
do?
that you could be convinced. I'm not convinced that you're able to be convinced. I'm not convinced that
Exactly.
you have a brain. I'm not convinced that you're a real person. I'm not convinced that you're not a robot.
Yeah, I
That's a
give the examples
psychological.
that some people don't think that birds can fly and that they're ran by the government. We all know that they are, by the way, but people believe that, right? And they're just not convinced that it's not ran by the government, right? That's a very good argument. It's a beautiful argument. The I'm not convinced fallacy.
Because it sounds so good. It sounds so like, oh, you haven't done enough work to meet my standard.
What
Oh,
is their
I'm
standard?
above you, looking down. Well, I'm not convinced I need a standard.
That's a psychological report. Your personal incredulity is not
Have you
fact.
guys? Can you guys
I'm
tell that
not convinced. I'm
I've been
not
doing
convinced
parodies?
your biographical details have any logical force to it.
Well,
Apathetic.
you
Have you
see,
seen
if
any of
you
my parodies I've been doing for the last like 3 months or whatever? 2 months?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
you see
Just
if you refer to the early childhood section of my Wikipedia, you'll see.
well, where do we go from here? That's all the stuff at tag I wanted to bring up. And we could dink on atheists. That's fun.
ooh, I
I'm not
want to.
convinced that you're unconvinced. Rather I'm convinced that I've convinced you. That's wow. I'm convinced that I have convinced you and that you won't own up to it. I'm convinced you don't have the courage to
It
be
sounds
honest.
like Jordan Peterson. He would
Yes.
give arguments like this. He's like, I'm not convinced that you're not convinced that you're convinced that I'm not convinced.
Well, it depends on what you mean by convinced. Like there's many different things that would convince me, and
Oh.
and I would be convinced if
Here's one. So if you're talking with a skeptic that doesn't believe knowledge is possible, and he's just like, well, I just believe X, Y, Z. I just believe. You can just ask them a more second order question. Do you know that you believe? Right. And if they say yes, then they're being inconsistent. That
I
knowledge is
believe that I know
possible.
that I believe.
Right. Right. It just ends in an infinite regress of, well, do you know that you believe that that there is no knowledge? Do you know that you believe that you think that there, it just ends in absurdity.
Jiub, how would you escape solipsism? Convince me that you exist, that you're not a figment of my mind.
That you're acting. Okay. So first of all, it's kind of like arguing for a brain in a vat, where it's like, okay, I could be a brain in a vat right now. The external world would be an illusion, right? So you can't know solipsism is the case because the means by which you came to that conclusion would also be part of the illusion.
It's a really good illusion. That's how good it is.
Well, to say how close in proximity you are to the good means that you have some metric by which to say that that's that it's a really good illusion. So you would have to you would have to have access to some sort of reality or truth that is not your mind to say that that word good, that metric means anything. So he's using all sorts of transcendental categories to say that, to make a knowledge claim about, solipsism is the case. I'm the only thing that exists. But he's using, certain things that that he hasn't given account for. Logic and words have meaning, identity over time, the external world, right? That he's actually talking to something or someone other than himself. Time, right? These are all things that he's assuming. Now, if he says those things are all an illusion, that they're part of his mind, then that actually just reinforces that he's not actually knowing anything. He's not getting to. He's also not getting to the true. There's no way to discern the true from the false if the metric is an illusion.
So how does
Right.
that get me out of it though? What if it is just all absurd and I can't know and I don't like I mean we're at the flat land of everything's flattened out and I don't need to justify anything because how do I know if that justification is not also part of the illusion?
Well, I would just question your ability to speak and make coherent sentences because you're still assuming that it's sufficient to be able to communicate with me, and so I would just I would question why you're even speaking if you really believe this.
Well, how do I know we're not just both babbling at each other and pretending to understand that we know?
Well, I would ask you. How do you even know or believe that proposition? Right. So you're opening your mouth. You're making a proposition. You're asking a question. You're querying. How do we know? How do we know? Okay, but I'm talking about the necessary constituents of what knowledge is. Right. So I'm trying to dial back our conversation to something more fundamental about what consists of justifying a belief. Right. So are you saying how do I know that? How do I know logic? How do I know time? How do I know XYZ transcendental category? Well, we know it through retorsion, through the impossibility of the contrary, that you can't use something to negate it. You can't use something like the laws of logic in order to negate it. You can't use such a fundamental faculty in order to negate itself. That would end in a contradiction, right? So there has to be certain things that are the case that we can't deny, such as you and I exist, which would mean the external world exists because you're not me and I'm not you. So does that make
You're
sense?
saying that we're not all God experiencing itself?
Are you telling me the machine elves lied to me in my ayahuasca DMT trip?
I think they're infallible.
Just like the Pope.
Pope DMT elves. Well, Jiub, I think that you gave a slightly better answer than the typical atheist. Well, it's either solipsism or I have these axioms that I can't justify because I don't want to be a solipsist. So I have these axioms that I can't justify and I don't need to justify. I think that's a little bit better.
Then they can't address the argument. They can't object to tag. Right? If they can't if they make their epistemic dead end at a first principle, like an axiom, which is unjustified, then how on earth are they going to actually object to God being the necessary precondition of all these first principles? Because if they do, that would assume that they have a criteria or a system that sufficiently justifies the first principle and says that my first principle justification is better than your first principle justification. So that's the thing. The atheist, skeptic, they want to object to tag. They want to object to God being the necessary precondition, but they have nothing in order to object with. Right? They don't have any external thing to compare to the Orthodox Christian worldview.
So when somebody is a solipsist and they are saying that he cannot know if anyone else exists outside of his own mind, that's still subject to the laws of argumentation because he's making the argument that no one else exists outside of his own mind. So he'd still be subject to the preconditions to be able to make that argument. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and he's also making a universal claim. There is no, that's a universal quantifier about all state of affairs, about all reality. How
and
does he have access
knowledge
to universals?
Yeah.
The proposition itself is a knowledge claim.
Right. I'm always surprised at how so many things that people legitimately believe are just you offer a very quick defeater. It doesn't even take thought, and like their entire worldview is just totally crumbled. Like my little brother says, "There's no such thing as truth." Okay, was that true? I didn't even have to think. It just like ejaculated out of my soul, just like whoa, like and then I didn't have zero thought went on, and I just defeated your whole position.
That's what philosophy does.
Yeah, I had a friend in high
Yeah.
school that got lost in solipsism. He would ask like everybody, he'd meet somebody and be like, "Hi, my name is so so. Prove to me that you exist." And I was like, "Dude, I can't take you anywhere." Eventually, he stopped talking about it, but I don't know if he ever actually got out of it. He was like totally lost in it. Like he was just, yeah, he was trying to figure out how to get out of it.
This is your brain on materialism.
Solipsism is literally brain rot. You know,
It
so
is.
the Marxists or Leninists say metaphysics are brain rot. It's just a waste of your energy. Well, actually, what your position leads to, solipsism or nihilism, that's brain rot. Actually, because he's
So
he's spinning his wheels trying to prove something that's leads to absurdity.
Well, I mean,
So-
the against metaphysics claim is absurd because you're saying there's no such thing as transcendental, there's no such thing as metaphysics, but that's a universal claim, which itself is metaphysical. Go on, Logan.
I was just gonna say, like, I'm a complete amateur at all this. Everything I've learned is from all the YouTube debates and everything, but it doesn't have to be an academic one. I think I have a basic understanding of what it means, but could I get like a quick definition of what solipsism is?
It's I don't know, I can look up like a formal definition, but it's the belief that you cannot be certain that anyone exists except for you, that the existence of an external world is impossible to know or to prove. Would you
Okay.
agree with that position, Jiub, that
Mhm.
definition of it?
Yeah. Anything other than the self is illusory, not real, or it's a figment of your mind. So ultimately,
I can be somewhat certain that I exist, but I do not know that you, Logan, are not just a part of me that is being projected out like as a mental image, a apparition, a dream that still rests within me that I perceive as some illusion to be apart from me.
Okay, so solipsism is what people are falling into whenever they start to take the idea of a philosophical zombie seriously.
I would say sometimes, likely, but I wouldn't say necessarily every time.
you know how like if we imagine our web of beliefs like a spider web, if we zoom out and in our view it's like God is in the middle of the spider web, the transcendentals are kind of around God, and then we're somewhere off in the distance on the spider web. The solipsist imagines their belief system as they're the center of the spider web, and all these things like logic and causality and time and the external world, those are the next ring around the web. I don't know the name for it, but you know what I mean. And so really it's on them, since they're at the center, it's on them to explain how their mind is capable or doing the legwork of logic and causality and time and constructing the external world. They have to give an account now around their mind because they're playing the mind of God. And guess what? They're never going to be able to. And they can try with their autonomous system, but it's like, good luck, dude.
Yeah.
Going back to what Nadim kind of mentioned earlier with like wanting, a kind of a level of education between like seminary for laity, so that kind of thing. Like all this argumentation that we've gone through, all this logic, this intellectualism, if you will. Like it's not required for anybody to be in the church to like achieve theosis, but I do think that it's like what drawbacks, what negatives could somebody have for studying philosophy and strengthening their mind? Like I think that if somebody has very strong faith, then that even if they don't know how to defeat somebody's argument against Christianity, against orthodoxy, and defeat positive arguments for atheism, materialism, all these things, that if they have strong faith, then they're not going to be phased, even if they don't know how to intellectually defeat those things. But I don't see any problem with being able to understand how to defeat those things. But again, and then having the philosophical knowledge to be able to grapple with these things on intellectual level and meet them on the battlefield and defeat them, that doesn't necessarily mean you have faith. So it's one of those, like, it's a weapon, but it's not it's not faith, but it can strengthen our faith. It can keep us from things that destroy our faith.
Yeah, it's a tool. It
Right.
it can be used to either kind of hamstring yourself and devolve into almost pseudo-gnostic knowledge seeking, where you think you have to figure out all the puzzle pieces when it's not really necessary. Like, only the most basic of information in order to, live your life and in the phronema is required. Only the most basic level stuff, because at a certain point, it just becomes sort of intellectual masturbation.
Right. Like Saint Theophan the Recluse in the Spiritual Life talks about like kind of these three layers of a man. He has like the carnal man, which is like your appetites, your baser passions, your need for the blameless passions. That's you need to eat, you need to sleep, all these different things that are part of our physicality. And then you have the intellectual part of man, and then you have the spiritual man. He's like, some people, you have one crown and you put it on one of these aspects. If you put it on the lowest, which would be the carnal man, then that rules you, and then that has negative effects about your intellect and about your spirituality. And if you put the crown on your intellect, on the intellectual man, then you might be able to use your intellect to order your passions, your physical passions, in some way, but then you're going to be starved and malnourished, like spiritually, and you might be subject to certain pitfalls of intellectualism. But you can put the crown on the spiritual man, and doing that will either makes everything else in order, or makes it much easier to have the point of view to order the other faculties of your being in a spiritual way, where they all line up in a healthy way, and they're not, all the passions are like things that are twisted, things that are good. Like gluttony is it's good to eat, food is good. It's good to have nutrition, but it's a passion where it's way out of moderation. Lust is the same thing. The sloth, it's okay to the Sabbath, to be able to have rest and leisure, but it's an excess of those things. So
you're kind of saying, and I agree, that there's a sort of patriarchy in our own different kinds of man. Am I understanding
right.
correct?
From
Yeah.
my understanding of reading Saint Theophan, he said each man is like has the hierarchy within themselves of carnality, physical appetites, intellectualism or intellect, and mental intellect, and then spiritual like nous. And they're always in that order, but you have your crown of whichever person you are, that you choose to live in that as like Paul would say, a carnal man. And then we have like scholastics, they would obviously be putting the crown on the intellectual man, and that's going to have repercussions. But he said the what we all need to be doing is putting the crown on the spiritual man, and that will help us order everything else in the proper way.
I mean, I think it's relatable for in fasting. It's not as long as you put the spiritual man first, you're gonna be fasting easier. I mean, you should first fast as the spiritual man, then you start fasting for the flesh. Then after you start fasting intellectually, then so.
Mhm.
And I think so I started listening like quite a bit on your monologue at the middle, because there's some guy in our parish arguing about how the holy fire doesn't descend down or something. It's lit by like an oil lamp, and then the patriarch just prays over it or something. So,
And of this video,
no, he's just another guy. No, it's just another conversation there. So my parish in London, we have like a group, and people just talk in it about orthodoxy and stuff.
okay.
And he just sent a video about how the holy fire is not doesn't descend, and he started like this whole debate. I'm like, I don't know.
For
Anyways,
people that don't know, the holy fire that Nadim is referencing is in the sepulcher, the tomb of Jesus in Jerusalem. Every Pascha, every Orthodox Easter, a holy fire is lit within the tomb of Christ, and it spreads miraculously to everyone there that has a candle. It jumps from one candle to the other, and it's a fire that you can put underneath you. It won't burn you. It's the tongues of fire of the Holy Spirit, the divine energies of the Holy Spirit, like we see in the Acts of the Apostles.
Yeah, he was arguing. I can read what he was saying, but I'm like, like why are why are you arguing? Like, just uh, accept that it's a miracle and just that's it. You don't
So
need to know
it's
how it comes,
he's like trying to
how it becomes.
intellectualize it.
Yeah, and then he's like, yeah, but look at the video of like the archbishop that goes in and makes like he admits that he lights another oil lamp or something like this. Like he's like, this isn't about scientific proof. No one is speaking of taking this stuff to a lab. It's just that the actual abbot of the Holy Sepulchre, Archbishop Isidorus, the sacristan of the Holy Sepulchre, who is actually involved in the service and places the oil lamp in the Holy Sepulchre, admits he lights both the oil lamp for the patriarch to take the fire from. And I'm like, yeah, it's not important how the fire gets there. Like people say it descends or that. I don't think it's
I mean, there's
important.
thousands of witnesses, and it happens every single year. I mean, there's videos,
I, I
evidence.
don't, I don't think he's arguing that it's not holy. He's just saying he's trying to argue that the Eucharist is holier. But I mean, I think everyone agrees. But I don't know what the problem was. But
Well, I don't know if
that's
there's
why.
levels of holiness within the divine energies. I would say that I wouldn't. I don't know if
Yeah, he's
I wouldn't make any argument like that.
I don't know, but that's what put me away. I didn't
I
hear
see.
anything.
I
Of,
gotcha. We were talking philosophy babble while you were away.
yeah. So just to come back to the point that it shows how important the patriarchy is. Like we can switch it back to like a social construct or like a social orthodoxy, or how the society should work under like our own, like what orthodoxy actually gives us and how society works. And it's it it it's obvious that it's through the patriarchy. It's like God comes first, then man, then woman, then child. So I think what are your guys' views about this? Like especially how do you think people are trying to push it away even more?
The hierarchy,
The patriarchy.
the patriarchy. Yeah, the patriarchy as such, just like how feminists say, fight
As
the patriarchy, or are you talking about specifically the
I mean,
patriarchy?
yeah, but like also the patriarchal structure that we have, like they don't, when we push for patriarchy as like the main uh,
As
represent,
opposed to like
like
egalitarianism.
yeah, as opposed to anything, we just give the solution as in the patriarchy is the only solution, and is the only good solution that would last. And this like bugs out not only feminists, like not people that call themselves feminists, but they're ultimately feminists. But um, they
So
they would they would just bug out, and they're like, yeah, but I don't want to submit to a man. But they don't understand that also the man is submitting to God, and he's also submitting to his bishop or his priest or his so he's submitting to his. So there's always someone you should submit to,
Right.
like
Well, I
no
mean, I would
one.
also say that would even go up all the way to God. Like,
Yeah.
I
So
I
the
saw somebody
bishop,
talking recently, like how it says that God the Father is the God of Jesus Christ. Like, how can that be true? Are they totally distinct? Are they different? Are there multiple
I mean,
gods?
he's the
And it's
father of the son.
right. Well, yeah, it's God, Jesus is God. He submits to God the Father, and people will be like, well, that means they're different. No, I mean, that doesn't destroy our Trinitarian theology at all. It's speaking
We
about the
can't
arche, the
comprehend
monarchy of the
the
Father,
actual Trinity.
yeah.
That,
So like
that's
the
that's the
Father,
thing that
the Father begets the Son. The Father spirates the Holy Spirit. The Holy
he
Spirit
doesn't
proceeds
create
from-
the Son, but he begets him. Exactly.
they're uncreated. And then, again, like this is what's really cool about orthodoxy is that we can say what has been revealed to us. We can say that Jesus Christ, this Logos of God, is begotten of the Father, and the Holy Spirit
Begotten,
proceeds from
not
the
made.
Father. Yes, but we can say that the Holy Spirit proceeds and the Son is begotten, but the contents of what that means, what it means to be begotten, what it means to proceed, Saint Basil says we if that hasn't
We
been
cannot
revealed,
comprehend.
if that hasn't been revealed to us, then we have no access to it. We can say that that's what it is, but we can't, exhaust the contents of
It's
that
been
because
revealed to us. It's been revealed to us that that's what it is, but we can't. It hasn't been revealed to us
if
what
we
it is.
can know the contents of it to any degree, it'd have to be noetically. Like Saint Seraphim of Sarov, he has there's an account written by him. It's like Mantelivov or whatever the Russian guy's name. It's like the really famous account. And he asked Saint Seraphim of Sarov, who is the Holy Spirit? And then Saint Seraphim of Sarov like puts his hand on his shoulder, and then just they are both enraptured in the uncreated divine light of the energies of the Holy Spirit. And the man is able to like be within that presence of the Holy Spirit, and he feels this warmth and the sweetness, and he feels the uncreated energies of God. And it's not something, I mean, it's again like it'd be probably trickling down, the noetic, the spiritual to the intellectual to the carnal, but it'd be because his noetic faculty is perceiving this, he's having that full experience of it. But it wasn't like a proposition, the Holy Spirit is this, that, and it was an experience. It's something that God was revealing to him in an experiential way. What were you saying, Logan?
Doesn't
What do you
mean
want to say?
that the Holy Spirit doesn't mean that the Holy Spirit was the whole Holy Spirit was there. That's why
Right,
we
right.
need the essence energy distinction. But, what was Logan saying?
Oh, so you were talking about just like the general rejection of hierarchical authority, especially of the patriarchy, like fatherly authority. I've it's kind of just it goes along with the Enlightenment and Reformation sort of presuppositions that the modern world is based off of, because everybody wants to reject authority. They want to be their own god in a sense. Like they won't admit it like that, but they want to. They want everything and everybody to be equal so that they can live and bring power, or will to power, and create what they want. And so they've rejected submission to authority. Like feminists specifically reject submitting to a man, and it's part of that. It's part of rejecting the submission and spirituality towards God, and that trickles down through the hierarchical patriarchal structure, because the God is fatherly, and patriarchal hierarchy is based off that sort of trickle down of fatherhood, as Christ submits to God the Father, because Christ submits to God the Father, and our bishops submit to Christ, and the priests submit to the bishops, and we submit to the priests and the deacons, and so on and so forth. And the man is the priest and father and hierarch of his home. And so it goes along with a lot of just the general culture of rejecting hierarchical authority and rejecting the natural order of hierarchy and patriarchy.
Exactly. I would just add one thing. I would argue that anything that's not for the patriarchy is shamanism. I think I heard Andrew Wilson saying it, and I fully agree.
Yeah,
Anything
as soon
that
as you said
isn't
that, I was like, wow, yeah, given that paradigm, all of Protestantism would be inherently
Yeah, feminist.
Feminist, and it would have feminism baked in because it's a rejection of authority. It's a rejection of
Exactly.
obedience, and it's you're, and then they have, it's like feigned. Oh, I submit to the scriptures. Okay, in what way? I submit to my own personal interpretation. So okay, so you submit to yourself. No, I submit to the scriptures. But you just said, it's feigned submission. It's not real, in my perspective. It's not real submission. I'd be happy to have any conversation with any Protestant listening. If you want to come and defend, just let me know. I'm willing to talk to anybody.
I don't think there is there is any. We have to go looking in their channels or something.
Well, I don't know if you've watched it yet, but I did have one conversation with a very good faith conversation with a gentleman named Mark Livgren. It's a video. It's a live stream titled "Conversation with a Protestant," and he's a Calvinist, and he is just discovering Orthodoxy, and he thought it was like Roman Catholicism, kind of like you did growing up, which is just, it's kind of funny, but or not
I didn't. I didn't.
No, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not. You know, he
Don't
could
do
he
that.
didn't have he wasn't able to, from just discovering it outside looking in, he didn't really perceive a lot of difference necessarily, other than like, aesthetically, external. But as we started talking, he's like, wow, this, I gotta, all my normal critiques about Catholicism aren't working because I don't. And it wasn't an argument. It was a friendly conversation. It wasn't intended to be a debate or anything like that.
Yeah. No, I think that's good. I think more. How like probably it was the same for you when you first found out about Orthodoxy.
Yeah, well,
You
I was in a interesting place in my life when I discovered Orthodoxy. If I'm gonna get into my testimony mode, I gotta start. Gotta let my Southern drawl come in a little bit. All right, brother. And I grew up in a Southern Baptist church, and I was a Christer. You know what that is. That's a family that goes to church on Christmas and Easter. You're a
oh,
Creaster family.
that's my family.
Mm. Yeah,
It's
so
the same,
that's what I.
but it's Orthodox Eastern.
Yeah, I mean, so
So
you at
it's
least have a little bit more fullness. Oh, sorry, I gotta get back into my. At least you got a little bit more of that fullness. I just, we just show up and we got our
yeah.
coffee and our donuts, and what's this pastor saying? I don't know. I want to take a nap, and I did. My dad would just let me take a nap. I mean, my daughter takes a nap on Pascha, but anyways, yeah.
That's
So I grew up in
different.
this. I grew up in this church, and it's now story time, just for all involved. It's story time. And it's gonna be a bridge, don't worry. But I grew up in the Southern Baptist Church, and my whole family basically stopped going by the time I was 14. I was the only one still going, and I wanted to be like a pastor. I started becoming like a youth pastor. I was involved in the youth, and then I saw there were some problems in the church, and I just kept thinking, this is the body, this is Christ's body, and it's got issues, but we got to do what we can to make things better. And what really pushed me over the edge and made me go through a deconstruction experience was there was a rumor going around the congregation that I was a homosexual. And
I'm
you're
sorry.
laughing.
It's not
Why
funny.
would you? Are you? Is that laughing because you think there's
No,
credibility?
no, it's not. It's just that it's funny. I just
My dear mother heard these rumors, and one day she sat me down at like 11 p.m. and she was crying her eyes out. And I'm getting emotional. Okay, so let me compose myself. She was getting emotional, and she was saying all sorts of things about how she failed me as a mother. And I kept being like, "Mom, I ain't gay." And she's like, "I can't believe you're gay." And I was like, "I don't know what to tell you. Like,
the
I'm not gonna
pastor
prove it.
told
I'm
me.
not gonna prove it to you."
The pastor
But
told me.
yeah, so she said a lot of hurtful things, and it put me into this mode where I stopped, because I grew up a very staunch intellectualism. Like summer camp for me was it's like breakfast and then like 4-hour session where we study Romans verse by verse, and it's just like takes us 2 hours to get through a chapter because somebody reads and like, stop, okay, I have a question. And it's just like constant trying to exegete it. And then we have lunch and we have 2 hours of physical labor and then another 4-hour Romans. Now we're into chapter 2. And so it was very hyper intellectual. And then having this experience kind of like flip something in my brain or my soul. I started thinking much more emotionally because I put myself into the shoes like, okay, well, let's just say, what if I was a homosexual? Okay, that's too deep of a thought. That's too icky of a thought. What if I was a homosexual having this experience? My mother kicked me out, and the rumors were true. I could end up on the street. I could end up totally estranged from my family, and then that started me pendulum swinging into this like liberal mentality, where I started questioning everything about my upbringing, about my faith, and I didn't think about things rationally. It's like that part of my brain was like put in lock and key for a few years, and I just started thinking, trying to be more empathetic and be more emotional, and eventually that kind of pendulum swung about the other way. But that experience with my mother happened about 6 years or so before Orthodoxy, something like that. So I was kind of on this, tore everything down about my Christian faith and then started to build things back up. And then I found Orthodoxy. And I'd also been exposed to a lot of different denominations in the South, about, denominations that would do crazy, weird forms of like pseudo liturgy. And Bill, I will slap your filthy mouth. And so to me, when I first walked into an Orthodox church, it was like I did have kind of this low tier, like, oh, this is just like another tradition. It's just like all those other traditions I've seen. It's just another beautiful form. And I didn't really even think about it being Roman Catholic at all. So I didn't, I don't know why this is kind of a long-winded thing just to say, yeah, I didn't see it as Roman Catholicism.
Me neither. Me neither. That's not it. I I was in a Jesuit school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's super. It's like the best in Lebanon. So
Can you use the voice like Paul Atreides on me right now?
the Bene Gesserit.
Yeah.
There is variants of the voice.
Yeah, really? Is that in there?
No, it's
Neurolinguistic programming?
It's like super intellectual based, and it's like we're building you up to be like a CEO or something, but then
CEO Kwisatz Haderach.
yeah, exactly. And they have this like form of, it's like an invisible form of like the perfect student for them, and if you don't match it, you're like an outcast and like everyone hates you. So it's so it's like super competitive, like what educationally it's super competitive, and there's not a lot of normal interactions there that like that you would feel with like teenagers or something. It's not like it's not exactly what a normal teenager would grow up in.
Bill, I
Then
don't think I've never seen the irony put in such a potent way, but thank you for making me realize that my mom did in fact turn me gay, at least to some degree. Thank you for that. That's humbling.
yeah, and I mean it talks by itself by being Jesuit, but I mean it kind of makes you think the wrong things, especially about Christianity and about the world, and about this like super scientific based, like we believe in the evolution. We don't believe it's like you have to, but evolution is true. Anything scientific is true. Anything the scientific core says is true, and evolution and the Big Bang, everything is correct. I mean, the Big Bang was
It was just like a
the first.
propaganda machine for the official
No,
narrative.
the first thing they tell you is that, yeah, it's and it's true. Like you can look it up. The Jesuit priest started the Big Bang theory. I mean,
That's a
it kind
terrible
of.
show. They should all be shot for that. My
Yeah,
gosh.
I mean, no, not this one.
Just kidding. All right. I gotta go start boiling some potatoes. I'll be right back. Jiub, Nadim, Logan, please provide free content for my channel while I go make some dinner.
Sure.
Well, I mean, if you want, I can give you my quick and crappy conversion story.
Sure. Do you want me to finish mine?
Oh, go for it.
Because I'm not a convert, but I didn't used to go to church a lot before. So then I don't know what happened. Then I went off to college, and I started smoking weed and drinking and stuff. And then I never thought I stopped thinking about my faith. I used to be like when I was a kid. I used to always talk about Christ and stuff. I was, but then after it started fading away, of course it will in an environment like this, in school. Then after it was degeneracy for like a year, and then after I went back home to Lebanon for a month. Didn't talk to anyone. Started reading more about Christianity and knowing more about the truth of Christianity, and starting believing, actually believing. I never stopped believing in God, but I started actually believing in Christianity, not just like this agnostic dumb. I never, like at the beginning, I never thought about it rationally. I was just reading about it, and never trying to find arguments against other stuff. I would just like read about it. And then after I got into it a lot, and when I first came to London, I kind of started looking for, okay, now I know Christianity is the truth, but like where is it? So the first thing I started looking up was Orthodoxy, because I am Orthodox. So I started reading about Orthodoxy. I'm like, why didn't they teach us this I used to go to Sunday school when I was a kid in an Orthodox church? And I'm like, it's crazy. I'm already in the truth. I didn't even need to do anything to be in the truth. And glory to God. Glory to God. Where now I'm aware, at least. What about you, Logan?
So mine isn't really all too exciting or anything. Doesn't have many twists and turns. I grew up kind of like what Mr. Westford was saying, and like you said, your family was kind of like. It was rather rare that we went to church on anything other than like a holiday. But my family came from a Pentecostal background. Like my grandparents, at least on my dad's side, were like big Pentecostal church members, Trinitarian, not oneness. So they at least had that going for them. And like my great uncle is a pastor. And so eventually it got to the point, especially after I started leaving the nest and going through schooling and everything, and after basic training, I started to fall into a lot of worldliness, and yeah, that kind of consumed a lot of my thought. Didn't really have the time or energy to think about anything religious other than in the back of my mind, oh, Christ is king, God is yeah, God created the universe and everything, and just like the most basic of mere Christianity in the back of my mind, as C.S. Lewis would put it. And yeah, it was about last year I got this somewhat cushy security job, and I was like, well, this is going good. I have extra free time since the job isn't too demanding. I have decent setup. I stable home, stable all this stuff, and I was like, well, if I'm gonna work on some stuff and try and improve as a person, I should probably look into my foundational beliefs and get back into a religious tradition and actually figure out what it is I believe. And the more I dug, the more I was like, well, I don't have the answers. My dad doesn't have the answers. My uncle doesn't have the answers. My great uncle, who's a pastor, doesn't have the answers. And as I was doing my digging, I came across a sort of a documentary of early Christianity, and they had all the receipts and the letters and talked about how the early church worked and how house churches had a liturgy and they presented the holy mysteries, and there was bishops and priests, and how everything has worked in the church since the foundation. And I was like, well, that kind of destroys the Protestant presuppositions that I had. And I had always been a history buff, so it was kind of easier for me to take that in stride and just be like, yeah, that checks out. That makes more things make sense than before. So once I came to that realization, I was like, well, if the sacraments / mysteries are important, then there's only a couple churches in which could be the true church. And it came to the point where I was like, well, Catholicism is very obviously wrong and ridiculous. Protestantism is just blown out of the water. There's no way that can be correct. And so I was like,
I'm
well,
sorry.
I'm either going to be Orthodox, or I'm going to settle and be Lutheran, because there's maybe a little bit of justification there. But first I went to an Orthodox liturgy and I started talking to my current father catechizer, and I was like, okay, well, this is home. And the more I learn, the more, no, Orthodoxy is the one true faith, the one holy apostolic church founded by Christ and his apostles. And there's kind of no argumentation against it, because
Orthodoxy or bust, baby.
yeah, all of history, all of history, all of philosophy, all of theology, it all points to Christ and his church, and that is orthodoxy. And there's no way after starting this adventure that I could really ever turn back.
Well, I didn't hear
Nice.
anything you said
Glory
really,
to
so I'll have to
God.
go back and listen to it. But hey, Jiub, we've all given
Why
us,
did-
we've all given our
Why did-
testimonies, man. What are you
why did
waiting for?
Yeah.
Come to the
About the black
altar. The Father's hands are open wide.
I think Job
Jiub, are you there? Jiub,
isn't
speak to me.
there.
Oh well, he's dead. Dead to me.
Maybe he's on a TT break. He had to use the
went-
little girl's room.
Lutheran sorta has a
Well,
justification.
Bill, what
Curious
were you
how
saying
mean.
about the Black Pope? Okay.
That I
Wait,
thought
okay.
at the time. Not I would never at this point say, oh, Lutheranism can be justified. No. It was at the time when I had less information and less assurity and justification that I was like, well, maybe you could make the argument that it's a continuation because the Catholic Church fell apart.
They preserved what the Catholics didn't, or something like that.
Yeah, basically.
Did you know about Orthodoxy at that point?
Well, like I had said, at that point, it was a toss-up between Orthodoxy and Lutheranism in my mind. And I was like, well, I'm feeling more Orthodoxy. I feel more pulled towards it. I feel there's a little more both evidence and philosophical justification for it.
Actually,
That's what I thought. Me too, Bill. I thought.
Well, I know where Jiub came from, so we can actually go right to the source, y'all. Right now, I have it on video. All right, folks. In just a few moments, you will see the evidence of that it is pronounced Jiub. All right. First, we're gonna play an ad. Please watch this. Please buy chalk. Please, give me a second. I gotta type this in. I actually don't watch Alex Jones like at all. I watched my first live stream of him like 2 days ago. Whenever Jimbo was on it.
You didn't see like that, like in like 2015 when he's like shouting at Jews. He's like,
Well, okay, I've seen clips and I've seen memes and I have seen the video of him sneaking into the Bohemian Grove. I've seen that, but this is the first like InfoWars like live thing I've seen. I've never gone on InfoWars.com.
Alex Jones is the GOAT. He's like the first anti-Zionist journalist in the US anyways.
All right, here's the proof, I think. The flag is.
Not Morrowind.
Oh, let me just try to find it. Okay, blah blah blah.
Why did you just invoke me? I hear Morrowind music.
I'm trying to show the receipts of what your name is pronounced. Here it is. That's the man himself, isn't it?
Yeah.
Stand up. There you go. You were dreaming. What's your name?
Yes, that's the guy right there.
Not even last night's storm could wake you.
I love that.
heard them
I love
say
that it's a
we've reached
convoluted
Morrowind. I'm
Morrowind
sure he'll let us
reference.
go.
Does he say his name?
Quiet. Here comes the guard.
This is where you get off. Come with.
Where did you get off? I thought he said his name.
He never says his name.
Oh well, my receipts didn't work, y'all.
But I'm pretty sure it's Jiub or.
No, I thought it was Jiub.
Jiub?
Yeah, Jiub or Jiub. I don't know. I think this is a hotly debated topic in the Morrowind.
Oh, okay. Well, I wasn't. I
I
thought
don't
it was
know.
a clear-cut case. And so before we invoked you, we were saying that all three of us now have given us our testimonies how we came to the Lord. So it's your turn, brother. I don't know what else you got.
How we got.
I have to sing the song again. Come to the altar.
Are we gonna like?
Bill, I was saying.
Father's hands are open.
I feel like we're in like some like evangelical church, and it's like, show me your testimony. Give me your
Come on.
testimony.
Dude,
Feel the spirit.
what is your testimony?
Mine. Okay, so it wasn't like really dramatic or anything. It was kind of a slow
Amen.
thing. So I grew up as a
Lord have mercy.
right.
I love when they're just like, come on. You know what I'm talking about?
Amen.
Testify, brother.
I'm gonna give you my testimony right now. Y'all better put your Holy Spirit ears on. I'm about to give you my testimony.
I am feeling the Holy Ghost in my body right now.
Do you feel the burning in your bosom?
Oh, I don't want no burning in my bosom. My bosom got burnt. Go on, brother Jiub, please go on.
So I was raised evangelical, and I fell away from that at some point during college. I read Nietzsche. I was like, man, I've never heard such a critique of the Christian faith before. And as a dumb young man, I was convinced that Christianity was like a coping, just a giant reduced to a coping mechanism, right?
We're scared of death.
The cold hard brute facts, right? So I never became like atheist or anti-theist. I just kind of became kind of a nominal kind of Christian, Christian around the family. But really,
you were like a Dawkins cultural Christian.
Yeah, but really, if you ask me, I'd tell you, I don't really believe that,
So you fell on the Jordan Peterson spectrum?
Like, not even that. I just stopped caring. Like, I'm just going to focus on the practical, whatever that means.
It wasn't like a technology that just helps us run our life. It has these results, but it's not true. Jordan Peterson thing.
Yeah, and I didn't even really.
What is real?
Well, it depends on what you mean by adult diapers.
I honestly kind of just like hand waved religion away for a while and just focused on other things, like what I thought were more important things. So I went through my agnostic phase, and then I started to question after some, usually we have some traumatic events that happen in life, and it makes you rethink your mental operating system. And so that got me into thinking, well, what if there is a God, but it's not the Christian God? All right. So unfortunately, I got into entertaining kind of Gnostic ideas for a while. And I started to question, well, maybe there is a God, but, it's not good. What if this place was designed to be a, you know, a sort of a torture pit or something, some crazy, crazy Gnostic stuff. Okay.
A
So I was in
cruel
that for a
joke.
little bit. Yeah. I was in that for a while, and I was only entertaining it. I wasn't like super deep into it. I was like looking into how to reconcile um, these ideas with my upbringing. And so I started to notice that there was a lot of kind of Neoplatonic elements into all this. So I started to research Neoplatonism. And then I started to know, well, where did Neoplatonism come from? And I went into Platonism. And then I'm like, I want to know more about this. So I got um, around this time of getting into Platonism, I started to encounter Orthodox apologists online. Like I started seeing them pop up, and I must have been looking up like something about universals or particulars, and I came across some of Jay's videos and his debates. I think it was his debate with Ask Yourself, because I was really enjoying watching atheists get destroyed, and I'm like looking for you know the best destruction of atheism, because even as an entertaining Platonist, or Platonist entertaining pseudo-Christian, or Gnostic, whatever, I thought atheism was foolish. So I got I started to hear about the Orthodox Church after listening to a few debates, and I'm like, man, this is the best defense of Christianity I've ever heard, both philosophically, historically. I want to know more about this. And so that started my journey into Orthodoxy. And I started to also go back and read the pre-Socratics with Western philosophy, and started to realize how I also started to realize that through my whole process of coming back to theism and ultimately the triune God, I was engaging in a system building project where I would cherry pick from various things I liked and smush it into my own system. So here I am I'm trying to cherry pick from the Gnostic, mystical element, and then the Neoplatonic triad, and then the Platonic idea of the realm of universals. And I was trying to cherry pick all this and like make a system out of it, without even knowing I was doing that. Like it was just sort of like second nature, or like I was doing it in the back of my mind without explicitly knowing that's what I was doing, right? Which a lot of people I think do, is they subconsciously try to construct their own system. So as I started to learn more about Orthodoxy, I started to realize that it's not actually on me to invent a system. It's not up to me to redefine or reinvent the wheel. In fact, it's really on me to find the revelation, the pearl of great price that's already here, right? And it's already been preserved and passed on, because if this is true, if the Christian Orthodox position is true, I don't have to reinvent anything. It's here. I just have to know what is being revealed through the network of the church, through Christ's body. And so becoming familiar with what's already known, and this whole idea of like revelation started to make sense to me, that ideas sort of have a lifetime of their own. It's kind of like how we can trace genealogies physically. You can trace ideas too, and the Orthodox belief system worldview is actually it's like a network of ideas. It's a living tradition that's been preserved noetically, and it lives within us all, and it's just becoming familiar with it, right? It's already here. We don't have to reinvent it. So anyway, that was like a huge aha moment for me, and I let go of autonomous epistemology. I let go of world view building. I didn't need to, piece it together, and now it's just the process of becoming familiar with what's already there, and joining the church. Joined the church after a few years, and started partaking of the sacraments, and it's like, it's all in order now. So that's it in a nutshell.
Amen, brother.
Thank you. Jiub, I just want to say
Wow,
thank you
fail,
for being
man,
so
spirit right
open and vulnerable, and just putting your heart out there for everyone. I think that's powerful, and I think the Lord's going to use that.
Thank the Lord
Amen.
for that person.
All right. I think we've had enough sappiness. We should go back to being mean.
Okay. Who should we be mean towards, Logan? Bill,
Well,
you're mean. Bill, in the chat, say who should we be mean towards? I want to bark at somebody. Bill,
Well-
give me somebody to bark at. I'll bark at you. You're not responding quick enough.
I had something in mind. The you were talking about the sort of autonomous system building. Like, I kind of almost try to forget that it's almost like not a bug but a feature of Protestantism. It's part of what led me on the journey, because
Amen.
like the whole idea of freedom of conscience, and there's all these different denominations, and they're all equally part of the church except whatever one I go to, which is specifically the best one because I say so. I usually refer to it as like sort of theological scavenging. You kind of, the more you learn about all these different denominations and ideas, you kind of pick the pieces you like, and it really wore me down. It was almost comforting to come into the church where, hey, things are figured out. You don't have to sit here and try and pick and choose. If anything, it's discouraged.
Well, it's similar to like
Exactly.
the preconditions of knowledge argument, where there's not that many starting points. Like, there's churches that say that they're the one true church. There are churches that don't claim that, and then there's churches that I don't deal with the problem because they don't think about it. I mean, like, what other options are there really? I have a Protestant friend. He's a charismatic Pentecostal who said, he was asking me about Orthodoxy when I was first converting, and he's like, "Do you guys think that you're totally correct? Do you have anything that's wrong?" I was like, well, dogmatically, like the things we believe, no. But I mean, each individual Orthodox person could be wrong, and we're wrong about. So dogmatically we have everything about the faith correct, but I could be wrong about like what's the genus of that tree over there. I mean, I could be wrong about that stuff, but the church cannot be wrong about stuff, but that kind of thing. But he was like, well, I don't think any church has it all together. I think everybody's just got a piece of the truth. We're all, it's all different parts of the body. Like my church is like the
The
foot,
church is
yours is like the
invisible.
ear,
It's
and
like
yeah,
the
it was like
invisible body of Christ.
right. Well, it's not even like necessarily that even advanced. It's just like, it's just God. It's almost like the relativism of the new age of like we're all God experiencing itself. Like your expression is just like one part that like focuses on like beauty, and mine focuses on like the physical, like the feeling, the
That's
sensation.
sola fide. It's just sola fide.
Yeah.
But I think every Christian that starts actually looking, um, like he finds this problem. Like as soon as I was sure, okay, Christianity is the truth. Let me get closer to Christianity. Let me pray more. I don't know what to do. I just jump to the Bible because it's the Bible. And I'm like, okay, I read this. Okay, what do I do with this? How do I pray? How do I live in a community with other Christians? How do I? Why is this passage like this? So you just fall into Protestantism as soon as you start looking for it. But and you're like, okay, but for me, I'm like, okay, I was nominally an Orthodox Christian. I would always say like someone would ask me, what religion are you? I'm like Orthodox Christian. I would always say that. I never said I'm a Christian. I always said I'm an Orthodox Christian. And I'm like, okay, why do I say I'm an Orthodox Christian? Like, why is the Orthodox Church any different than the other ones? Why is it so important for me to say that I'm Orthodox Christian? And what is an Orthodox Christian? I started asking myself, like what makes you an Orthodox Christian? So I started looking at the Orthodox Church, and I'm like, yeah, screw everything else.
Well, I feel like we can. I don't
Thank
know.
the
You
Lord,
guys,
I got baptized in the Orthodox Church.
brother,
Thank the
brother,
Lord.
bring it in. Amen. It's so good to hear your testimony. But
That
I
was
feel like
too
we can.
good of an accent switch.
It's really funny to hear your Southern accent. As a man who's I'm a Southerner. I grew up in the South my whole life, and I don't have an accent. It's really funny to hear somebody else put an accent on. It's really funny. But what do you guys think? Can we? Am I correct in saying if a church body says that they are not the one true church, then we can just go, okay, well, I believe you. You're not it.
I mean, yeah, they should know, right?
Yeah, like you just said that you're not true. Okay, I'm just gonna take you at that. Like if you're not the church, you're just a church. Well, then, peace out.
I mean, that's easy. That's easy for us to say, but if they don't, they didn't read anything. That's the problem. Like in our generation, like everyone wants to argue everything. Like everyone wants to say what he believes in everything. Like no, that's not the way it is. Before it was scholars that used to talk for the people, and like not everyone has the same IQ level. Not everyone has the not everyone is able to use his intellect as much as other people. So yeah, so that's why we don't have street preacher like a lot of, maybe we have one or two, but like we don't have it's not common for us to have street preachers, because like that's not the way we spread like anyways, if you want to be a preacher in any sort, you have to be a priest. We're here just discussing, we're not preaching anything. Even we it's this thing, like they it's very Protestant minded about
Yeah, it is.
preaching to others. Like me, at first I'm like, yeah, you need to. Okay, I'm in the truth now. I need to tell anyone about the truth. I'm talking about orthodoxy. I'm like, okay, I can't. There's no way. Like this is so unbearable how true it is. I need everyone in every single part of the corners of the world to know that orthodoxy is true, and that just leads you down a rabbit hole. But I think the church sets you straight. This only happens if you're not um, practicing spiritually in the church, and like like anyone who has a spiritual father is not gonna do that. Like,
I think one root of the symptom of like street preaching, cold turkey evangelism, that kind of thing, is the once saved always saved sola fide. Because from their schema, if I can get you to say this magical incantation known as the sinner's prayer, then you have assurance of a salvation. You will be in heaven. You will not go to hell. So if I can just get you to the point where you'll say the spell, then I've done my work and I can move on to the next person. It's not actual change of the heart. It's not no ontological change. It's no joining of the church. It's no baptism. From many Protestants, it's just say this magical spell. So when you believe that, it is just about like, let's go out, talk to any person, talk to this person's grandma, get them to say the spell. Here it is. Say this. Read this card. Okay, you're going in heaven next.
exactly.
You know.
Yeah,
I
like
think I think the best way someone could convert someone else is by having kids. It's the easiest way. It's you just g- they can't tell you no. like just find, or even like, if you don't marry someone that's already orthodox, just convert your wife. That's the most important thing. Like at least to if you love some girl too much that you want her to be your wife, and us in the church we can't marry outside the church. So if we want to marry the girl, then she has to be orthodox. Then that's where the preaching you see in the Bible comes in, like or I think. But the most important is the kids. That's the way I see it as an Orthodox perspective.
Well, it's just a total different phronema, that just means, mindset, perspective, outlook. Because it isn't about getting somebody to say a magical incantation. It is about them being grafted into the body of Christ. So that
Yeah,
comes to real relationship. I mean, that's such a big difference between the East and the West. Is look at like Cyril and Methodius going in and baptizing the Rus. They spent the time to give them a written language. They understood their language, they learned their language, and they gave them written form so then they could be able to do all of the services and all of the things that you would need to do to have a church do the full liturgical year. They'd have the physical, the writing in it. Look at like Saint Innocent and Saint Herman of Alaska going and preaching to the Inuit people and how they got to understand their culture, how they got to understand their language. They set up liturgies and churches in their own languages. It's just a totally, it's more long-term missionary work, dealing with people where they're at, instead of getting them to become Latin, getting them to become like
exactly.
us. It is not about them adopting our culture. It's about us baptizing them and their culture and as many aspects of their world that they are inundated with, and baptizing as much of that as can be baptized. Not about say this incantation. Like if we got Joe Biden to have a teleprompter in front of him that said the sinner's prayer, and he said it and it was like, I am a sinner and I accept Lord Jesus Christ as my savior. Like would he be saved for that? I don't know. I mean, some Protestants probably would say
That
yes. Probably many of them probably
that's
won't. But I'm
But that's that all of that comes from Islam. It's so obvious that like they're just you have to say the Shahada of Christ, then you're saved. It's the
I
same
will push
thing.
back a little
It's,
bit on you, Bill, because I think there is potential, um, an orthodox phronema, an orthodox approach of preaching to the masses. Like we can look at the Acts of the Apostle, we can look at Paul, look at Peter. Like they went and they preached, but it wasn't this, next, get your ticket to heaven.
it was a
It's
long process to
right, like
make people start living the faith, not only
like Paul would stay
confess the faith.
in one place. He stayed like in Thessaloniki for 3 years,
Exactly.
establishing a church, establishing a patriarchate there. And then he would go and he would still be sending them letters. He'd
Yeah,
still be
but that's
he'd be on the
that's
pulse
why
of that community. It's so I think there is it's not like we are totally opposed to any kind of
exactly
preaching, any kind of evangelism in that way. It would not be the same. Like
definition.
it's not this manic franticness. I gotta go to the people. I gotta dance in front of them, show how happy and excited I am. Oh my gosh, do you feel this joy that I'm feeling? Say the Jesus prayer, please.
Yeah, like
It's a sobriety there, and that doesn't mean that we would shrink away from preaching
Escape
to
fire of damnation.
yeah. I mean, but like so I don't I do agree with you that even my pastor isn't going around, my priest isn't going around publicly preaching, but I'm sure there are cases where he probably would. If there was something egregious happening in our town, if there was some kind of, satanic ritual, like a parade or something publicly, I'm sure he would not shrink at all to being in the public and talking to people there and
look
representing
at how
Christ.
much
But
the
it's not the same. Like I said, the manicness. If I have to go out there and it's my job to save your grandma.
yeah, it's
I mean look at how much preaching, like that's look at how much the Orthodox Church is growing in the US. That's preaching, but that's not the preaching of the
Right.
of it's so like immigrants would come and set up churches there, bring like the richest people from this community to help the church. The church would grow. They would then need an archdiocese or a metropolis, and the bishop of this archdiocese or this diocese would set up missions, and the missions would go and preach. The way they preach is by building a church. The way they preach is by doing like a food like a buffet, or like there's different ways of preaching, but the important way we need to preach is like we need like our priests do actually preach is that they set up permanent place in the hearts of people and in the minds of people. So they're not going around and just reading canons and telling them, yeah, this
Right.
is
Yeah,
what
it's
you have
not
to do. And
pharisaical. It's not telling people how evil they are and how it's
yeah,
not the sinner in the hand of an angry God,
so it's like
whatever like
if
that.
you don't do that, you're not Orthodox, or if you don't do that, you're not Orthodox. Like,
I mean, the
Yeah.
classic thing, I'm going back to Saint Seraphim of Sarov again. He says that if you acquire the Holy Spirit, if you acquire the spirit of truth and the spirit of peace, then thousands around you will be saved. So
exactly.
why would I go and try to preach, at my local town square at your grandma, if I have that manicness and I don't have that peace within myself? What I'm gonna, like Bill says here, being overly zealous is gonna turn people off. If I don't have the spiritual fortitude, if I haven't done the spiritual work within myself to acquire the purity and the peace, then how am I going to attract people to be pure and to be in a state of peace if I myself haven't cultivated that myself? But all that aside, this whole conversation, I think we should probably just kind of like wave it away, because I haven't researched this, but I'm pretty sure it's like all the scholars I've ever seen agree that Paul was a very good barista. He set up the best coffee shops, and that is how he converted the pagans. I think that is what we need to be focusing on. All the scholars I've
That's
read agree,
hilarious.
and
So you're telling me
I've never
coffee
heard a good
hour
argument
truly
against
is.
it. Hey! I haven't heard a good argument against it. And anytime somebody tries to, I usually just do that what I just did there, say hey a whole bunch, and they stop. They usually
Yeah,
submit. But
I
the
usually
scholars
do it
I read,
when you say that.
hey,
I'm like,
the scholars I read, they talk, people also say like coffee wasn't widespread until like the Renaissance, and that contributed to like the artistic expression, because people were staying up all night because they were buzzing out of their minds. But Paul did that 1,000 years before, and I think we should give him the credit. What are you guys saying? Sorry. I don't know. I kind of got possessed by
I
some.
think Logan wanted to say something.
What I'm hearing is coffee hour truly is the greatest evangelization for the church.
Amen, brother. Amen, brother.
No, but back to like it is a completely different phronema. Because like my family is baffled that I've been attending for the past like 7 months and I haven't been baptized yet. I haven't taken communion, and like I've tried to explain to them, like there's so much more going on. There's so much more intent behind everything, and of course not trying to like belittle them, because that's just not really the right way to go about it. And there's just so much more going on, so much more intent to every step of the process, besides just, come up here, say the sinner's prayer, get dunked in the bathtub real quick, and then you're saved for the rest of your life. Doesn't matter if you go out there and you murder 10,000 prostitutes, but
It's for free grace. The grace is free. It's all done.
Yeah.
I did it for you. All you got to do is believe.
Get the
yeah,
grace.
there's a much more long term.
Why'd you have to bring up MLK, man?
There's just a much more long term thought and intent behind it. The fact that we believe theosis is a process. It's not just get dunked in the tub, say the sinner's prayer, you're done, you're good for your life. Just repent every now and again. It's repentance and theosis is a lifelong process, and you need time to prepare for that and to really set your mind on it, to learn the basics that you need to know moving forward, and the practice and what needs to be done.
Yeah.
My wife was baptized in a jacuzzi.
What?
Based.
My wife was baptized in a jacuzzi when she was like 12, and she said that one of the main reasons she got baptized is because she didn't want to spend the weekend at her dad's house.
Oh my
It was an
gosh.
excuse to get out of it.
I think the main problem it's because they're afraid of suffering, like to obtain anything related to God. They're like, yeah, God is easy. He just loves you the way you are. You don't need to change. Just repent a bit, and then you just pray a bit, and then yeah, you're good.
You gotta do this. Just like, it's kind of like, vibe. You gotta feel it. Like,
Yeah, but the orthodox view is like you have to suffer. It's like
mhm.
the main thing is you have to suffer. It's like what, like the
If
passion
you're
of
not
Christ.
suffering, you should ask God, why is he not, why are you not growing? Why is
Yeah,
he not giving you
there's a
challenges so you
problem
can
if you're
grow?
not suffering. It's like the biggest saints suffer the most. Like and
But
like
then it's also
we
sobriety, because
understand.
we're not seeking martyrs' crowns for that. We're not trying to go get ourselves killed. We're not trying to
Yeah, we're not
jump
trying
in
to.
front of the freeway of martyrdom, but
Yeah, but when suffering is inevitable in us, we accept it. We are
right.
supposed to accept it as much as we can and live through it. But I'm not saying we have to
Yeah.
serve ourselves in
I was saying that for the
consider it
audience, that somebody might try to twist that as oh, it's like you're self-flagellating like a Roman Catholic. It's
we're
the
not masochists or I don't
yeah,
know.
Yeah.
it's suffering is for our spiritual benefit, but
We
that doesn't
have
mean that
to.
we should go. That doesn't mean we should actively cultivate certain sufferings or cause certain
Yeah.
sufferings to others or intentionally try to get ourselves killed. I mean, that's
Yeah,
causes
when
harm to others.
when the Protestants read I think it's Paul, it says pick up your cross daily. They
Mhm.
think it's like just something. I don't know what they think, but it talks about the suffering of the cross what Christ suffered on the cross, and we need to um, accept our crucifixion, sort of crucifixion when it comes, because it will come. If it doesn't come, there's a problem. Like here, there's I think there's the spirit of prelas is present. If there's no suffering at all, you're like it's. I can't imagine living without suffering. I don't know if
Yeah.
anyone ever.
Yeah.
What's isn't there there's a saint's quote that we should be thankful for the persecutions brought upon us because it gives us the opportunity to grow in faith.
Exactly. And like many saints say how much for the church the persecution is the best thing for the church, because it can't I see it as it like filters out the church. It like when for example COVID, like it filtered out a lot of the church, like a lot of people converted during COVID, but a lot of people
Yeah,
that used to
I'm
go
a
to church.
covert. I'm a COVID convert. That's
Yeah,
I
and a lot
became
of
a catechumene
people,
during COVID.
yeah, exactly, and a lot of like already Orthodox stopped going to church, like because of COVID and because of a worldly, useless, fake globalist agenda. So
Or I mean, I
the-
know people that were hurt by the church, different churches, their personal parishes response, like they closed down for a month or 2 months or 3 months, and then they lost trust in the church. Like, will they
yeah,
be
but
able to protect
I'm
me?
talking about the one that never came back. I mean, the
Yeah,
ones
yeah, yeah.
that are still gone, but now they can come back. So if they suffered, then they're actually the ones they didn't get filtered out. So I think that was good suffering. They call it the good suffering of the ascetics, but we also live good sufferings. Like it's not only for the monks to live this good suffering. It's called the jihad al-jayyid in Arabic. I don't know what it's called
We have a
in words.
jihad.
No, jihad means suffering, but
Jihad against the
they
demons.
exactly. It's there's a so the good suffering means the translation is al jihad al jayyid, the good suffering. Jayyid means good. So
Jiub, what?
no,
Just kidding.
jayyid, jayyid.
I thought it was Jiub.
Yeah, the jihad Jiub.
Yeah.
I looked
Oh,
up
yeah.
a post on how do you pronounce Jiub, and most of them said Jube, like Jewb. Okay, so by the way, there's
scholars.
another. Yeah, the Reddit scholars, right?
Yes, truly the most intellectual among us.
My initials are actually, they sound like Jube, so that's another reason. So it's another reason why I chose that. I left that out.
Is that where you're going to bring up there?
Yeah, that's why I go Jube. That's why I take the Jube role. I take the
Okay.
Jube position.
Oh yeah,
You know,
you're a Jubenite.
I'm the I'm with the Jubenite scholars.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground. You guys want to take this anywhere else? I've got another half hour that I could be on, but don't have to.
I'm that the agnostic didn't show up.
Yeah,
but,
he hasn't replied to me. It says he saw it 3 hours ago. He saw it like right at the beginning of the stream. He didn't. I don't know what's something came up or what. I'm not sure, but I'll get back to him and we'll see.
I would love to talk to him.
Yeah, me too. He's a fan of my channel. He saw my shorts. That's how he got. He found me.
Yeah, your shorts are funny.
Thank you, sir.
like
Many people say that they are not. Many comments go, "I didn't laugh." Is this supposed to be a joke?
Because they don't have the intellectual capacity to understand your jokes.
I'm just too high level for them, and I try to bring it down to y'all. I try to condescend, but yeah, the thing, my wife's like, some of those videos, it just sounds like words to me, and I don't really know what's going on. But the ones where you like make a funny noise or you spit like that, man, I laugh so hard. So I try to make my wife laugh too. So, I will do more poop jokes so the atheists will know that it's humor, because I'm not quite sure how to get the atheists to realize it's a joke unless like there's a fart sound going on. They don't really seem to pick it up.
Well, that's basically the atheist worldview, is a giant fart noise.
Yes, the Big Bang is a giant cosmic fart, dude. That was even like, wait, that's a freaking Family Guy joke that God farted and then the universe showed up.
It's also there's also a fart hadith in Islam.
No way.
Yeah.
Usually, whenever I hear about Islam and
hadith,
hadith,
what are you talking about?
Oh yeah, I think
a fart hadith, dude.
I think when you fart.
Okay, does
Satan
Allah's foot fart?
The perfect fart.
the necessary uncreated foot.
you know, Satan is in your nose every day, and before you sleep, you have to clean him out of your nose.
Neti pot in the evening keeps Satan from.
So Satan is everywhere, in every place, in every nose.
I mean, did you know if you don't wake up to the prayer call outs for when you need to go to the mosque, it's because Satan peed in your ear?
Yeah, I know this one too. I think it's a Quran verse. It's not even a hadith.
It's very strange, like how austere and stoic and like outwardly honorable Muslims appear. Like you look at them, you're like, they look respectful. I feel like I should respect them just because like of how they are in the tradition. And then you learn about, and you're like, Satan, like God farts and foots and Satan pee in your ears. What is happening? Like, it's pretty clown religion.
But I mean, especially
neti pot baptism. Oh my gosh, no baptism, not by neti pot sprinkling. No, that's against the canons. They didn't. Paul was a barista, but he was not doing neti pot baptisms.
I mean, but we still can't convert everyone, so we have to live with them in society. So,
Wait, you're saying their universal salvation isn't true?
Huh?
Why are universalists always universalist Unitarian? Oh, sorry. Why are Unitarians always universalist? Why does that always go together? I don't feel
Well,
like
I
I ever
mean,
see
'cause-
universalists that
Because
don't believe in
they agree that it's the same God for like everyone worships the same God.
So it's like perennialism.
It's like grade one ecumenism. It's like
I mean,
it's like
there are oneness Pentecostals that'll argue against other religions, but are Unitarian. But for the most part, yeah, most Unitarians I've ran into are Universalists. I'd have to guess it has to go along with collapsing everything into the monad. So since everything is one, all people have to be saved because all people are one in the end.
aren't they sort of like rabbinic / messianic Jews if they just they just say that like they believe the Unitarian of like they're like Talmudic, like it's in the
I mean,
Talmud that
there's
like,
definitely like
it's
a
crazy.
genetic like thread there, but here in America, there's tons of universalists. Like most of them probably come from this like a strict view of sola scriptura. If the word Trinity is not in the Bible, then I will not believe in the Trinity, because they have this like super literalist view. If I cannot find it there, I will not believe in it. So I'm a Unitarian because I do not see the word Trinity in the Bible. But
Okay, so
where's
did they
Unitarian
see
find in the
Christ?
Bible? But
What
that's
what do they see Christ as?
well, it's like Jesse Lee Peterson, like God's just our big brother. Beta, God's just our big brother, and that don't. I'm sorry, Jesus is just our big brother. That doesn't mean he's God. He's just
You
our big
sound just
brother.
like him.
Well,
I've never tried to
how
do
is-
it. I haven't listened to him enough to like refine it, but
It was pretty good.
I do
thanks.
I do work with
Jesus
at my
our big
unit.
brother.
There's a guy I work fairly closely with who's a former oneness Pentecostal. He's kind of non-denom now, but yeah, he's a former oneness, and from what he was telling me, they're basically modalists, and so
Yeah,
they think Christ was an extension of
He was a
the
different function.
yeah.
It's the same person,
Christ is the hand of the Father.
right? That,
It's like- it's
but
like
then
the
you
foot-
like so absurd of like, okay, why would it be father and son? How can it be your own father? How can you be your own son? But then the Muslims will be like 1 + 1 + 1 + 1. Like they'll say the same thing. But was
Yeah,
that a good
it-
Jesse Lee Peterson? I gotta know, because I was basically just doing like a 3-year-old. Is really all I was drawn from.
like the word of God is the
Take a vote.
Bible. Christ is the word of God, so Christ is the Bible. It's the same
Yeah.
thing. In
Like 2 weeks
Islam.
ago, I had a Protestant say that the gospel, that the scriptures are eternal, because in John it says the word was God and the word was with God. So he goes, therefore the Bible is uncreated. It's a part of the Godhead. It came down from heaven. I'm like, bro,
There's a
how did
floating
you get
Bible
here?
in the beginning.
Yeah, it's a law's floating book. I mean, isn't that what Islamists believe too? That
That's
the Quran
exactly
is
Yeah.
what
created?
Islam says. The Quran is divine. It's like,
Yeah, it would have to be a part of Allah. It'd have to be. Well, then it's
but
like,
it's not
if
the
Allah is
book,
totally
but-
transcendent, how can I hold the Quran in my hand if it's
No, but
divine?
it's like written. He has like a plaque with like the foot has a plaque, like, and it's and the plaque that's it's like the uncreated Quran is like with the foot, you know. It's
The
Yeah,
foot
they're
dipped its toe in divine ink and script, and it like gave itself a mani pedi. And while it was doing that, it lacks. Why is my? Oh my gosh! I'm getting burned by the sun. What is
the
happening
Holy
to me?
Spirit is getting through you.
No, if I'm remembering correctly, the actual belief for like the eternity of the Quran for them is it's like something like the Quran was written before all time by Allah on an invisible metaphysical tablet, and all copies of the Quran are imbued with the essence of that tablet if they are correct and in Arabic, specifically if they're in Arabic, because only Arabic is a holy language.
But didn't humans create it? Like, what? I just got some basic questions here.
Oh
If
no,
it's a
I never
holy
said it
language
wasn't
that-
ridiculous.
No, it's like dumb. It's like one of the dumbest religions. It's crazy.
It's really dumb.
how
It's really
big it
dumb.
is.
It's the only thing that's crazy about it is how people treat it like a legitimate religion.
Like it's untouchable. You can't talk about it.
Yeah. Well, I
Really.
keep like my wife will wear a headdress sometimes in town, and she's like, people are really nice to me. I think they think I'm Muslim. It's like women, like female Orthodox, have a little bit of a plot armor because people are so nice to Muslims. They don't want to offend a
But
Muslim.
they literally copied it from Orthodox.
Yes, a lot of people don't realize that. Yeah, but why do mosques look the way they do? Why does Islamic worship
Why do they
look the
have
way
a
it does?
dome?
Why do they have prostrations? Why do they have the hourly prayers?
Well, I mean,
Because orthodoxy.
most mosques are basically defiled churches anyway.
Well, they all, and then even the ones they built are built with the scheme of Hagia Sophia, which is a desecrated Christian temple that they stole.
It's coming back though. We're gonna get it back.
Oh yeah, I mean Russia was so close until the West was like, no, the balance of power. We have to attack you.
It's okay.
Because we're good Christians that want the balance of power.
Don't even get me started on the year 1922.
I was talking about before that, the Crimea Wars.
Saint Paisius affirms that the Hagia Sophia is still sacred. It's still
Hagia Sophia will rise again, brother. Amen, brother. The sound. Let me know.
I went to Greece with my family a while ago. I went a lot of times to Greece, but I went once in an island. It's called Paros, and there's a monastery there. They have 99 doors. One of the door is dedicated for when the Hagia Sophia is going to get retaken by the Orthodox Church. So
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. She came to comfort me because she heard me screaming. She thinks I'm upset.
So they have like a prophecy that this door is gonna be is gonna just appear there as soon as, or I don't know. It's something about the door. The door is gonna be unlocked when.
Does that have to do with like the Marble King?
I don't know. It's just an Orthodox monastery I went to in Greece just as a tourist. I wasn't even fully into Orthodoxy. I would just like tell everyone, like my dad does this every time. Like we meet a Greek person, he tells him he's Orthodox every time.
Does he talk about Windex?
No.
Oh, I know that he's not Greek, right? He's Lebanese.
Right.
Yeah. But, we don't have Windex, but we have like around the same food. Like we eat a lot like same food. Like the food is very similar. So
it's a Mediterranean diet kind of stuff.
Yeah, very.
Hey, as long as you have baklava, I'll be right at home.
Yeah, but Leo is not Turkish.
I like the grape, like the rice wrapped in grape leaves.
Oh, yeah, we have
this little matas.
Yeah, whatever they're called. I like those.
Yeah, it's the best thing. I love it.
Well, y'all, we are at 3.5 hours. I think we'll be shutting it down here. I got to make some dinner. Hopefully,
I got to too.
Where are the immigrants in your parish from?
We have some from different parts of Russia, from Western Russia, near Eastern Europe. We have a family from like the southern Chinese border. We have trying to think that we have some from Romania, from Latvia, a couple of just different Eastern European countries.
It's crazy because none of them are from Antioch.
We have one. Yeah, we have one. Yeah, none of us are actually Antiochian. We
Yeah,
have
that's
a lady who's
that's why you don't
Georgian.
have pews.
Yeah. Well, my
My,
priest is very traditional. Is just trying to keep to all of the traditions, and he's very
Zealous.
he's uncompromising. Yes.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's good. Awesome.
my parish is mostly second and third generation Greek immigrants. My father catechizer, though, he's from Bulgarian Orthodoxy.
Is do they are they
I think he said Bulgarian.
I don't know how to say it, but is it on the Elpidophorus side or on the more traditional Mount Athos style or
Oh, my
of
parish.
Greek Orthodoxy?
So it's pretty chillax, I guess is how I would say it. we have pews. We sit for probably about half the service. We of course stand for a lot of the important invocations. But yeah, it's not super traditional, but it is still, of course, a parish in communion with the rest of Orthodoxy. It's not like schismatics or anything. I wouldn't have gone there if it was.
Yeah.
And I think especially maybe from like someone who doesn't live here in the States, seeing like the differences in our jurisdictions and seeing Elpidophoros, it might seem like, oh well, if it's Greek then it's suspicious, but it really, from my experience going around to a couple dozen parishes now, it is a lot like a parish by parish thing. I mean, they're obviously in their diocese and they're going to have their hierarchy, but there is some level of freedom. If you have a traditional priest, if you have a what you'd call a liberal priest, I mean, there's going to be that'd be one of the deciding factors. And even then again, get more nuanced. I know a priest here in Washington who he has many people, many congregants who are kind of left leaning, and he would like to be more traditional than he's kind of able to do while serving the community that God has given him.
Yeah, but the good thing that the good and bad thing in Orthodoxy is that we're not centralized,
Right.
but in a good way, it helps not everyone be like this. Then we would all be like the genuine Orthodox Church, like.
Well, it's like Brother Nathaniel says, like they want us to be cookie cutter Christians. We're not here
Exactly,
trying to.
but-
We're not oneness. It's not God is
Yeah.
possessing me like a puppet, and like we're all. Theosis is
Yeah,
about
so
becoming fully human.
every parish has his story. Every parish has his own problems. Every parish has his own traditions. So
Now we got to figure out how to get the parish to tell us its testimony, brother. That's
Yeah, well, I think it's all the job of the bishops. I like as long as the hierarchy is well chosen, then there wouldn't be fundamental problems on how the perception of each parishioner of Orthodoxy of each parishioner is. I think this. Like the way the church should be put, and the way the political view and the way the social view of each person in Orthodoxy should be the same. That should be universal. But the rest of like if there should be pews in the church or something, that's not a problem with I mean the small traditions.
I will fight you. Pews are way worse. But I get what you're saying. I'm being
Yeah, no,
So-
I'm just
being a little tongue in cheek.
I'm against pews.
Yeah,
I'm
it's like
against
the
pews.
old calendar issue. I think that the arguments in favor of the old calendar are much stronger, and I would like if the entire church was on the old calendar. but it's not an issue to become a schismatic over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would not leave the
I mean-
church due to an issue like I wouldn't leave the church ever, but I would especially not leave the church due to a issue like which calendar we're on.
I mean, as long
that's
as
like
as
the
long
true
as
Orthodox or old calendars like left because of that issue. They became in schism because of that, and that's just it's like you can do both. You can try to make the argument, even if you're right or wrong, you can make the argument this is the better thing to do, the better tradition to hold, while not putting yourself in schism.
as long as Pascha is in the
Right.
old
That's
calendar, there's no problem.
yeah.
But
That's even the new
if-
calendar. Even new calendar churches are
exactly,
old calendar Pascha because that's explicitly in the canons.
exactly, and I think so the Antiochian Church follows the new calendar, but we of course do Pascha. But I think we also do for example, if a parish has a specific saint, I think we celebrate in both calendars the feast of the saint, for example. So there is compromise in the church, and
Economia.
yeah. So
Yeah, I
then
think
you wouldn't be orthodox if you don't believe in economia. So it's
I
crazy
think
that there's been schisms because of this. Crazy.
I think that was kind of a good thing that I ended up going to a slightly more relaxed parish, because as I was starting to get into it, I was almost getting into that like hyper rigorist, almost legalistic mindset, and kind of settling down and seeing, everything's okay. It's don't have to be going crazy about all this minor stuff, and being able to see the beauty even in a more relaxed setting, that it is still the one church. And I think in the end, it's been kind of helpful for me, at least, to kind of see that and calm down and not go crazy with the rigorism and the legalism.
Yeah, and that's so true. Like you can see the difference, especially with like in comparison to monasteries, parishes, and monasteries and parishes. So like in a monastery, they would of course be more rigorous. For someone, but like for laity, it's easier to. So, there's a reason for this difference. Like there is like it's very important for us to go to monasteries. That's one of the reasons why.
And even in monasteries, there's level of rigor. There's like
Exactly.
idiorhythmic, there's kenoboic, there's hermitages. There's different
Exactly,
levels
but
of
I'm
asceticism.
saying as in the people that go, so there's people that go to every Sunday to monasteries.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a problem, but as laity, someone that's new into orthodoxy, or it's way better to go into like a normal parish that's just a
That's
parish
seeker
for
friendly.
laity. Yeah, and also like there's a reason why also for there's a reason for everything in orthodoxy, and but it still is important for us to go to monasteries. I wish I could go to a monastery often, but like we should. I think there's what's it called, the channel Roots of Orthodoxy.
Yeah.
And there's this Antiochian father, I forgot his name. He talks about the importance of going to monasteries. He says at least once a year go to a monastery, and I think that's very reasonable. I think if you want to go more, it's good, but
I've heard
but
people
you
say
should,
if the church is a hospital, then the monastery is like the emergency room.
exactly. Well, there's this guy in my parish. He goes to a monastery every 2 weeks, and I mean, he his personality is very monk-like. You know, he like only talks about orthodoxy every time. So, but he never does it like he never does it in a bad way. And he does it the way it should be. So I respect those people a lot. It's great. It's hard to balance it, but there's people that can do it. Like go constantly to monasteries, but still like live in society. I get baffled by it, but it's possible he becomes a monk. I don't know. So it's you never know. But
You have any closing thoughts, Brother Jiub?
Not really. I enjoyed our conversation, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for spending the last almost 4 hours here.
Yeah, it was fun.
Well, thanks anybody listening.
it was very fun.
Thank you, Nadim. Thank you, Logan, for hopping on. Thank you, Apathetic, who showed up earlier. And,
Thanks.
I will say, go ahead and like, subscribe, comment, nub, all of the things. I'm trying to grow the channel. I'm going to do a push. I'm trying to stream every day this week. My birthday is next week, and I'm trying to hit 500 subscribers by that time. I'm gaining subscribers. I'm also bleeding them. I think people that subscribed to me like a decade ago when I was doing dumb YouTube stuff are looking at this and going, ugh, and then I lose two. I lose like 2 of those a day, but I get like 4 new ones a day. So it's kind of like, yeah.
We need to preach your channel around the world.
Yeah, I think that if the Mr. Westford channel is evangelized across the world, then then Christ,
we would acquire world peace.
Yeah, I'm going to win many crowns by
global
making jokes. And I do believe the many theses of my channel is that, I don't believe that we can really get to atheists because they're so hard-headed and hard-hearted. Amen. That logical argumentation is just not getting through. So I'm trying to hit them with not the precept, but the jokes. Just trying to hit them with that humor. If I can get them to laugh, it's like in Protestantism, I heard many times that the way to a man's heart is through his stomach, or like if you're trying to get somebody to come to your church, be like, there's coffee, there's a meal after, it's I'm trying to get them to laugh at themselves.
Yeah, give me that fried chicken.
Evangelizing through satire.
Yes. And so far I have like one person who was a former agnostic who's like, this is actually a joke. And, Jesus Christ be praised for that. And, I'm on the search. I want to find the atheists, the agnostics that were evolved to have a funny bone. And I'm trying to find good evidence of that. I want to believe, but, I remain unconvinced.
Wes, so Apophatic, the guy that was on here earlier,
yeah,
he is very humorous.
Ah.
He's my buddy, and sometimes we go on Discord, and he LARPs as Jay Dyer. He calls himself Jay Dyer, and he actually can actually like mimic his voice really well, and it's really
that's
funny.
hilarious.
So next time he's on here, or next time you stream, maybe he can come back on and show you. It's hilarious, and that might be a really funny way to get to atheists, because he did it on Discord, and it actually it made somebody that was really hostile start laughing and start opening up. So
and that's the thing. Like so many people on my like atheists will comment on my comedy videos, being like, "Why are you so hateful?" I'm like, Do you go to Joe Rogan? Do you go to do you go to Cat Williams and go, why are you so hateful? Like, do you go to any comedian and just like accuse them of all this? Like, do you not know what a joke is? I'm sorry.
How do you know? How does he know what hate is? Where does hate come from?
He doesn't know what a joke is, so I don't know if we can even get up to hate.
I mean, they don't even have.
His atheistic view, how
he was determined to hate it.
Knowledge is impossible.
The chemicals
how does
in
he
his
know
brain.
that hate?
How can you know something is funny without the grounding in God?
If I don't agree with it, if it doesn't comport with my view of reality, then I can't find it's funny. I mean, it's as simple as that.
We need to come up with a tag argument. It's like, what is the necessary precondition of humor of a joke?
Laughter, therefore joke. Oh no, yeah, joke. Laughter is the necessary precondition for jokes. Laughter, therefore
Yes.
joke.
Yes.
I didn't laugh, therefore it's not a joke. Jiub, have you seen my 2 streams that were me going on old school RuneScape and LARPing as Jay Dyer?
I saw the one that I was on
The
there
second
with
one
you.
got taken down because of a copyright claim. I need to go and scrub the audio or something.
Oh no, that was really hilarious though. I thought it was like, man. So I know somebody that plays RuneScape.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
actually my buddy, but he hates Jay Dyer. Like it's an irrational hatred because he's Roman Catholic. And so
Oh.
I linked your stream. I linked your stream to him. So hopefully he didn't copyright strike or do anything.
Nah, I had like it was like the most random thing. I wouldn't have expected it. It was, have you guys ever heard of the B movie Birdemic? Anybody?
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's a really terrible movie. And there's a song from it. And I just played that song as like my vamp music, you know, like when I wait for people to join the stream. And that got me flagged. And it was like, this video is no longer available in America and Canada. Well, shoot. So
That's so
Nadeem, you
dumb.
actually could watch it, but everybody else.
What's its name? We can.
It's well. Let me go to
We
my.
can get this video taken down. I can share my screen and.
But we can't play the audio during those parts, or else we'll get flagged.
Wait, let me.
What is? Let me go. My gosh, YouTube changes its format so many times. My channel. It was.
Your last video 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my god, I don't even know. Okay, wait, there's my videos. I have to go to the YouTube Creator Studio to look at my own stuff now. It was called Jay Dyer Destroys Sophis in Varrock. Hot and heated.
Yeah, I see it.
Oh yeah, so you can watch it. But yeah, I should get your friend to because I wanted to do like a.
You're just dancing like this.
Yeah, I wanted to do an edited. That's what got me canceled, dude. The joke police are coming for me. Yeah, don't play the audio, please. You'll get this one flagged too.
I remember the song now. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's from my culture, my black culture, my strong black heritage, and I got flagged for that. I was just trying to share it. But
yeah, if y'all didn't know, Mr. Westford is my online black friend.
I'll be your token
was raised in Blackman.
Yes, I grew up in Blackman. That's a true fact of life.
Nice.
I grew up in Blackman, Tennessee. That's my hometown. But Jiub, I should get your friend because I want to do an edited, like take the streams I'm doing, and then like when I type stuff, have Jay's voice over it, so it's like it's dubbed, and then I can do like Microsoft Sam or whatever for the people reply like that. I'm destroying with facts and logic. I thought that'd be a fun, like
he's your guy,
story.
dude.
Okay,
Totally
I'll send him the footage and he can dub over it.
He even has like the setup. Like he's got a bookshelf. He's got a whiteboard.
He's got
the lights. And
he's got the whole thing.
Wow.
Yep.
Does he have the books behind and stuff?
Yes. Yes. He's got Orthodox books, and he's serious.
He has Jamie there somehow. She's bagged,
he actually shouted out to Jamie. He's like, "Hey, Jamie, can you get me some Manuka honey?
Can you give me a double espresso?"
Yeah, he's got it.
Bro, I swear that man, he really did get like papal throat AIDS from that Italy trip. He cannot ever stop coughing at least once a stream.
Well, last little shout out, please. If you like the channel, please. All right. I'm not asking for a lot. I do need like another 30 something subscribers to make this whole birthday celebration thing work. But that would be a big help. And to make where I can do super chats and memberships, I do need 3,000 watch hours of my streams and my videos. So please like, share, get that going. Because when I get that for my first membership only stream, I will be coming out as a black man. And I just want that to be known. I'm coming clean, coming out of the closet. And that's just something you have to work for me to do that, to be comfortable enough to come out. I'm a Chinese black man. Anyways,
Mr. Westford is once more asking for your financial support.
I'm going to the sun again.
That's the Holy Ghost come through your body. Brother.
I yelled just one more time to see if I was peaking. Sorry, guys. Well, it's nice being here on Mars with y'all. I'm gonna end it before we hit 4 hours. And my potatoes are probably overboiled now. I should go check those.
What kind of self-respecting streamer goes for less than 4 hours? What are you, Jim Bob?
Well, I'm not gonna have 6-hour debate with a Jamaican crab. So.
Okay, that was like his best stream though. That was great.
I jumped out like 7 times, and my friend would text me, "He's still going." Well,
It was nice meeting you, Nadim and Logan.
Nadim.
Good to meet you, Jiub.
Nice to meet you, Jiub.
I love when
Yeah.
internet friendship just happens. I love that.
Yeah.
I'm glad I facilitated it.
Yep.
I love
Thanks,
how
Wes.
you're
I'll
glowing.
catch you later, bro.
Yeah, we'll have to get a beer sometime.
Yes.
Wes, we
Yo,
really do need to play AoE 2
Nadim.
again at some point.
Nadim, you blessed me with that. Thank you.
You
Brother
glow,
Nadim.
girl.
All right.
Girl bossing too close to the sun.